TLDR, League of Legends patch 4.14, up in this world's preview show. Gnar, the missing link, is now available for play. He'll tag you at range and lock you and your team up in 3 years of crowd control when he transforms. Will they rename the World's Finals the Chronicles of Narnia? Only time and maybe Freak will tell. Assassins have seen a rise back to the LCS. Our favorite floating purple rift-walking mage assassin needed to be toned back a bit. It'll take longer for the damage and mana cost of Riftwalk to reset. Oh Kog'Maw, you're quite possibly the deadliest marksman. I guess it doesn't really matter what your target builds when you can melt it like a hot knife through butter. Name probably knows this best. Riot's lowered his base move speed and lowered the damage on his ultimate. Maokai is the new top lane terror. I'm all about diversity, but the mighty Oak does too much damage and offers too much utility. The base power on Twisted Advance is going down, and his ult has a max up time of 10 seconds per activation. While everyone's trying to get at least a goal to get victorious Morgana, regular old Morgana's power in the bot lane can't be ignored, and so the base shield on Black Shield and the damage on Soul Shackles are going down. I honestly can't believe some people were saying it was Zyra. Come on! Orianna got her base AD lowered by 6 points. I can only imagine one of the balance team members going, yeah, that'll show that ball-loving robot. You take that nerf. Just how will Guang or Xpeke ever cope? Anyways, this shouldn't take away much from the most balanced mage in the game. Rengar has a higher cooldown on his ult early level, and the warning indicator range is larger, but it won't stop players like Dandy from clawing your carry's face off. Finally, Zed, because Z's at the end of the alphabet. Now when he uses Death Mark, it'll place Zed behind the target rather than in front, all while getting the ability to move through units, just like true ninjas should. I'm sure this makes Bjergsen, Westor, Dade, and Hive very happy. Everything else in these notes doesn't matter. This is TLDR Patch Notes Worlds 4.14. I'll see you next patch. The chase for the cup begins. Oh baby.
Yes! Now that we got the dates locked in and the patch notes covered, it is time to take a look at the teams in Group A. But first, just because Group A simply isn't exciting enough a name for the preview show, it's time to reveal our favorite nicknames that you guys, the fans, have sent to us.
Yeah, you guys have sent a lot in, and while most of them were iterations of two teams being good and two teams being less good, with varying degrees of profanity, cruelty, and even intelligence, there were several that actually made us laugh. And I'm looking at you, Thanksgiving group.
The one that felt the safest to air for both legal and moral reasons was actually the Davids and Goliaths. And we like that one as well. And we want to thank E or something for being the first one to send that in to us.
And you know, Trevor, I actually did beat Goliath in that matchup, so of course anything can happen in this group. Monty, actually, you were also quite vocal on Twitter about the name for this group. You called it Resident Sleeper. Want to chime in on why?
Yeah, I named all of the groups after Twitch emoticons, and this group, we have two obvious favorites here. It's probably going to be the most boring group, and hey man, he's asleep. Doesn't need to watch.
Well, let's take a look at those teams over in Group A, starting with the #1 seed from China's LPL. It is Edward Gaming. Next up is the #2 seed from Korea's The Champions, Samsung White.
The next team in this group is the #2 team from the GPL, AHQ Esports Club. And the final team is going to be one of the international wildcard teams, Turkey's Dark Passage.
Well, let's actually take a closer look at those teams, starting with Turkey's Dark Passage. Dark Passage has been the most dominant team in Turkey for the last 2 straight years. They won the winter, spring, and summer seasons, as well as the Turkish Grand Finals in 2013 and 2014.
They competed in the International Wildcard Tournament last year, but lost out in the semifinals. But this year, they've returned and have dominated their opponents, bringing their first ever World Championship trip for a Turkish team. So let's take a look now at their starting lineup. In the mid lane is Naru, in the jungle is Crystal, supporting is Touch, AD carry is Holy Phoenix, and the top laner is Fabulous.
Yeah, and I've actually had the pleasure of shoutcasting Dark Passage both last year and this year, and there's been a noticeable improvement. The first person who stands up for me is their mid laner, Naru. He has definitely grown from last year to this. He's got a phenomenal KDA of 7.3 in both the Turkish Grand Finals and including the 2014 World Championship, International Wildcard rather, where he really impressed me with his champion pool. You know, playing at Gamescom, under the lights on the stage, he played 7 different champions in 8 games, and he really excelled in his role. Secondary to that, Holy Phoenix has joined the team in the AD carry. He was too young last year as he was not 17. Now that he has come of age, he joined in the squad and he destroyed at Gamescom. Crepo, I want to ask you, what's your take on Holy Phoenix and Dark Passage as a whole?
Yeah, I think Holy Phoenix is definitely one of the better, if not the best AD carry in his region. But unfortunately for him, this tournament is going to be so stacked AD-wise that it's going to be so hard for him to even come close to the level of his opposition. All the other AD carries in his group are just really good at what they do. So while he's very strong, I'm just really worried to how well he can perform. However, he had a good season, had good KDAs, had a good performance, and even had a pentakill on Tristana. Maybe he's dreaming for another one, but I don't think it's going to happen.
Well, we'll have to see. Maybe he can repeat that success. All right, guys, let's turn our focus onto GPL's AHQ Esports Club. AHQ have been one of the top two teams in the GPL over the last 2 years. And last season, they were actually the favorites to make it to the World Championship, but they were upset by the Germania Bears.
It's kind of been the sort of the story for AHQ is they're always almost there, but the losses have kind of continually fired AHQ up in GPL's regional finals this year. They swept the Saigon Fantastic 5 3-0 and finally grabbed that number 2 seed and went to the World Championship. Now we're going to take a look at their starting roster. Their AD carry is Garnet Devil, in the top lane is Prize. In the mid lane, their star player is West Door. In the jungle is Nas, and supporting is Green Tea. Now again, the player that stands out to me is that mid laner West Door. He is definitely the best mid laner in the region, and this is, again, a region that has bred players like toys. This is a player that a lot of us still remember from the Season 2 World Championship. This guy is a phenomenal assassin player. His Fizz, his Zed, his Yasuo are great, and if they're going to win, it's going to be on his back.
And I just want to chime in because Westor and Nas are just the playmakers of that team. If there's a fight that breaks out top lane 1v1 or bottom lane 2v2, they're always the first ones to respond. They're always looking to make plays, get picks, and carry the team. They're just the most active members of HQ.
I'm glad you mentioned the bottom lane. What's your take on Garnet Devil? I mean, ADC, what do you think?
Yeah, so when I watch him, I would compare him to the likes of Cop. He's very consistent. His positioning is good. He's not a playmaking like AD carry per se, but he's very focused on just positioning, hyper carry, get to late game, and just do his job. He's not standout in any way, but he definitely is the top AD carry in his region, in my opinion.
Well, 12-0 Jinx. He definitely makes it to the late game, that's for sure. All right, next up, it is going to be Samsung White. That's coming from Korea. This team is making it back to Worlds after failing to make it out of the groups last year, where they played as Samsung Ozone. Samsung White have admitted to being overconfident last year, and they tasted the bitterness of defeat. It is weighing heavily on their minds, as we heard in the Road to Worlds documentary.
Sure, but of course not going to let that defeat hold them back. They've earned enough circuit points to force a tiebreaker against SK Telecom T1K for the second spot from Korea. That's where they defeated the defending world champions 3-0. So a very good road for them so far. And we're going to take a look now at their starting players. In the jungle is Dandy, one of the best junglers in the world. AD carry is Imp, supporting is Mata. In the mid laner is Pawn, and the top laner is Looper. Now, the only difference for this squad from the last year's sort of failed squad at Worlds is a swap in the mid lane. Pawn is now playing in place of Dade, and I think it's better.
Yeah, I think so. Dade struggled last year. I'm looking forward to seeing Pawn play. But truthfully, we have to ask the conductor for his opinion on Samsung White. Talk to me about some of the players, Monty.
Well, you know, for Samsung White, I'm a big fan. I'm a big fan of the Samsung organization, and either team is going to probably win this World Championship, but if I had to bet on one, I'd bet on White. And the reason is, even though, you know, they haven't kind of had that seminal performance where they actually beat Blue in a best-of-5, I think the time is now. And Dandy's going to be right up there with it. Dandy, I think, is the best jungler in the world right now, and he is head and shoulders above pretty much any other jungler in this tournament. It's his jungle pathing, his control of vision with Mata, his ability to play Rengar even after the nerfs makes him very, very dangerous on certain assassin champions. And he's a playmaker. You know, he can go in there, he can lead his team in, and this guy is just extraordinary. We call him the Prince of Thieves. He always steals objectives. Really well-rounded player.
I want to know your thoughts on Imp. I'm personally excited to see him play. What's your take?
Imp's a very good player. A lot of the time, what Samsung White will do is play pick compositions. Imp will typically play a champion like Twitch in that situation. He's one of the first in, usually. He's not like Name, another AD carry in this group who's more positional. He's there in the front line.
The best thing about Imp, though, that he has the privilege to play with Mata, and that makes their bot lane just even better. That's arguably the best support, if not one of the best supports in the world. I'm just looking forward to see them play.
And finally, let's check out China's Edward Gaming. Just half a year ago, this team has gone from not existing at all to being one of the best squads in the world. They were assembled by combining the top players from teams like World Elite and Positive Energy and molding them into this unstoppable powerhouse.
And a powerhouse they are. They stormed through the spring and summer playoffs both, taking first place the entire year. they also only lost a single game the entire route through the summer playoffs. And so with 2 first-place finishes and then winning the Chinese regionals, they are the #1 Chinese seed for Worlds. Let's take a look now at their starting lineup. Their AD carry, their star player is Name, formerly known as Devil if you think about him from a while back. Their top laner is Koro1. Their jungler is Clearlove. Their mid laner is Unstoppable. In this tournament, he'll be known as just the letter U. And the support player is FZZF.
Well, now, Doublelift, I know that you keep in touch with the Chinese scene and Chinese AD carries in particular. So what's your opinion on Name?
I mean, this guy's just amazing. He's definitely my pick for just someone to watch in Group A. I mean, he's 3-time champion. He's just incredible. He's so consistent. I've never seen him lose lane. When I watch EDG play, this guy never, ever, ever loses lane. The only time that he actually dies in the first 10 minutes is when the enemy team, like, 4v2 dives bottom lane. So it's just something completely out of his control. He's super consistent. His positioning is incredible. But the thing to note about him, he's really unique. He doesn't make plays. He is just very, very consistent. He doesn't dive in 1v5. His positioning is pretty much always perfect.
Yeah, I agree there. He's just a very smart player. One game, for example, he made an adaptation where he has Twitch, he would just gank level 1 mid and just basically win that mid lane for you, go down to the bottom lane because you were playing in a lane swap anyways. He recognized that he had that 30-second window where he actually did not need to be bottom lane immediately, and he took advantage of that and basically won mid lane for his mid laner.
One thing that is going to be a little concerning, though, is the fact that I think a lot of this tournament is going to be on his shoulders, and if he's not willing to take risks and abuse the fact that he'll be winning the bot lane consistently, it's going to be a little bit of a hard road for EDG with teams of incredible players in every lane.
Yeah, very briefly, let's talk about you, Unstoppable in the mid. I feel like he's overshadowed by some of the other Chinese mid laners. Doublelift, care to share your thoughts?
Yeah, absolutely. Yu's not the strongest mid in China by any means, but what he is known for is his diversity. He can play pretty much everything. The thing that kind of strikes me as negative about him is people will sometimes play niche stuff against him, such as Jace mid, and he'll just go on crazy feeding sprees. He'll just die constantly in lane. So he might not be the best laner, but he's exactly what the team needs. He's super versatile, and he'll pick for the team comp.
Well, now that we've looked at the 4 teams in Group A, let's go look through our telescope over to the telestrator, as Monte Cristo is actually going to take us into the laning phase.
Thank you, Quick Shot. If we take a look at this group on Summoner's Rift under a sweeping lens, one lane stands out above the others. And that's where I expect the make or break performances that we'll see a team advance or falter here in the group stages. For Group A, I think those battles will take place in the bot lane and specifically with the AD carries. So we're going to do a quick rundown of the 4 ADCs competing in Group A and exactly what makes them tick. Starting off, Samsung White. There's Imp. Also known as one of the best ADCs in the world, he has insane mechanics and believed to have one of the strongest laning phases of any ADC. Following up, Edward Gaming, Name. He is known as one of the best positional ADCs in the world, extremely intelligent, and picks heavy scaling champs for the late game carry. AHQ Esports Club, Garnet Devil. One of the best in the region, and he had amazing performances with huge KDAs in the recent GPL season and the regional finals. And finally, Dark Passage, it's Holy Phoenix. He's undoubtedly the best ADC in all of Turkey. He carried his team during the international wildcard tournament with a pentakill. Now, if we start to rank the ADCs in this group, I think it'd probably stack up a little bit like this. Number 4, Holy Phoenix. Unfortunately for him, he's going up against the 3 ADCs that are among the best in their respective regions. These regions are much bigger, and moreover, our top 2 are probably top 3 in the world. Following up, number 3, Garnet Devil. Like Holy Phoenix, he is one of the best in his region, but he will be facing Name and Imp, and these are regions with a lot heavier competition. Number 2, may surprise some of you, I'm actually going to say Imp here. Imp does bring great mechanics to matches. He has a very strong laning phase, and he's paired with Mata, which you really can't underestimate, but he can get cocky and make some mistakes in the late game because he's more of that playmaking style. You want to look for consistency. It's my number 1. It's Name here. It's really close between Imp and Name. They have very different play styles, but I believe that Name just edges Imp out due to his stronger late game and his consistently good decision-making and his emphasis on team fights. Regardless, it'll definitely be interesting to see these 2 duke it out with their very different styles. So there you have it for the laning phase for Group A. Quick Shot, back to you.
Thank you very much, Monty. Jat actually took some time out of his schedule to catch up with one of those OP AD carries over in Taipei. So let's send it over to him and see what Edward Gaming's Name has to say.
Hey everybody, I am here with Name from EDG to talk a little bit about the World Championship. And you have actually won 3 straight splits in the LPL. How have you been able to do that?
主要是因为就我觉得我上了赛场之后，我就觉得我能赢他们吧，差不多也相当于是自信和就是我觉得只要我不导致我打得很差，不会崩盘，我就导致我会赢得这场比赛，自己就有信心很足那种。
It's interesting. Where does that confidence come from? Because you've been so dominant as an AD carry for so long, but where do you draw all the confidence?
他的自信到哪来的？
这种东西有在日常交手中，就是与交手过很多次，也不是属于那种陌生的对手，打起来的话，就是不会不知道对方体系，所以说就知道该怎么玩能赢。
And now you guys actually move on to the world stage, where you get to play AD carries from all regions. How do you think you'll stack up against those players since you haven't played them before?
我也有事先看过一些国内外的比赛，就是
事先
了解他们比较想交手的。我感觉每个队的每个地区的种族队都是我非常想交手的队伍。
And after watching all the other AD carries, how do you think you stack up against them?
这种事情要上了舞台之后才能决定吧。就是当你打起来和你在台下观看完全就是不一样了。你交起手来，你才知道一个人的真正实力有多少。
And of all the AD carries you've watched, who are you most looking forward to playing against, or who do you want to face them?
还是想问他常
应该是韩国的硬普。
Why Imp?
因为那个人在线上的个人实力很强，以及操作感都是让我觉得我非常想要战胜他。
You want to play against Imp? Are there any teams in particular you want to play against?
比较想交手的队伍应该也是韩国的三星蓝白队，还有欧洲的 Fnatic，以及北美的 TSM。
And last question for you. OMG and Royal Club both had a lot of success last year at Worlds. OMG in the group stages and Royal Club making it all the way to the finals. Yet your team, Edward Gaming, has beaten them consistently in the LPL. How do you think that helps you as a team going towards the World Championship this year?
跟 OMG 还有皇族这种战队交手，说实话，他们的实力也是真的是非常强，赢了他们也不会取得那么轻松。就是让我们在了解一个队伍的实力上限，就是相当于征服了他们。如果他们征服了队伍之后，我们有更大的信心去战胜对手吧。所以去年就是13年 S3的时候，皇族的成绩确实非常好，希望我们在今年能够超越他们。
Well, thank you for that, Jet, and thank you even more to Name for taking a time out to chat to us.
Yeah, and I just wanted to expand on something earlier because I'm really excited about Name. It can't be understated. This is a guy who's coming into Worlds with 3 consecutive championships in his region on 2 different teams. For me, this is the best player in the world that we have never seen at an international competition, and I am so excited.
Well, after that introduction, Monty, it's time for the table. Well, you around the table to tell me who your number 1 and number 2 teams are. They're going to make it out of groups into quarterfinals. And I know you're going to put Edward Gaming first. So come on.
You know
1
me
and
so
2.
well. No. It's going to be Samsung White. This is a team that, as good as Name is, Imp is still right up there at the top of the elite carries in the world. And they're just better players at all the other positions, effectively. Now, my one concern with EDG being number 2, Samsung White has had a tendency to lose to a team that has a very similar style to EDG, their sister team, Samsung Blue, that's reliant on a very positional AD carry, an AoE, big-time AoE mid, and a lot of team fighting. Of course, AHQ probably 3rd, Dark Passage probably 4th. This is the David and Goliath group. I don't think they stand much of a chance.
We'll see if it works out. Had some faith in Westor earlier. What's your opinion and predictions for this group double lift?
Well, I have to agree with Monty, even though I don't really want to, because the Korean team is definitely going to make it out. Samsung White, absolutely the best team in this group. And EDG, just a little bit under them. Honestly, I think Name edges out Imp a little bit, but in all other roles, in all 4 other roles, Samsung White just has slightly better players, if not like drastically better players.
Westor and Garnet Devil, not even a glimpse, maybe?
I don't see a glimpse of hope for them. I see a glimpse of hope for AHQ to potentially take 1 game off of these guys.
Well, we'll see. Next prediction, Crepo, 1 and 2. Are you going with the trend?
Yeah, I'm definitely putting White first, EDG second, and I do agree with Double. AHQ might be able to take a game of EDG just because their vision control isn't really good, their pre-planning isn't really good. These 5v5 brawl fest that's so typical for the Chinese scene actually happen because they don't plan ahead very well. They don't push out their side lanes very well, or they don't have the best vision control. Compare that to White. They have Mata just controlling the game on his own in terms of vision. So, and I agree as well, role for role, the Koreans are just better in this matchup.
Freak, I've got to roll this one on to you. EDG, the one Chinese team at Worlds that I feel doesn't play the stereotypical team fight way. I think they can if they want to. 1 or 2, or is a surprise like AHQ going to make it 1 and 2?
So I can't give any more facts than what you guys have already said. I agree. The number 1 is Samsung White. Number 2 is Edward Gaming. Number 3 is AHQ. And I think they are a dark horse that can make a run here. Specifically because I think they are very strong and Westor can just hard carry here. And with Edward, there's the chance that Name just doesn't perform internationally. There's the chance that it doesn't quite click for EDG, and there's the upside AHQ goes through instead. It's unlikely, but I think that is on the table.
And don't forget, Samsung White or Samsung Ozone last year choked in groups. Sure. Now, this is normally where we would turn to you out there and ask for your favorites. And of course, you still can share those with us. But today we'd like to do something just a little bit different. It is time for the 2014 World Championship preview show, Mad Libs. For those of you unfamiliar with Mad Libs, it works like this. We ask you for different types of words, like a noun, a verb, or an adjective. I had to look them up too. And we'll plug them into a predetermined sentence, often with hilarious results. For instance, I'll ask the guys here on the desk for some words, starting with Creppo. Give me the name of a player from Group A.
Imp.
Imp it is. Double Lift, can you give me an adjective, if you would?
Kawaii.
Okay, so Imp, Kawaii. Monte Cristo, give me a past tense verb.
Well, it's Imp, it's Twitch, it's ambushed.
All right, so Imp, Kawaii, Ambush. Let's see. We'll take those. We're going to plug them into our League Mad Libs. In this case, we'll end up with something that looks like this. Wow, that play from Imp was Kawaii. He totally ambushed the other team. I'm not really sure what that means. All right, earlier this week, we tweeted out on @LOL Esports and asked you for a team name from Group A and 2 verbs. And here's the sentence that you were unwittingly constructing. Team name better verb this group, or they'll verb all the way home. And we're actually going to fill in our favorite responses to the sentence, and it reads something like this. From @Sam Chamison, he wrote, Samsung White better Shrek this group, or they'll sob uncontrollably all the way home.
Shrek is love.
Shrek is life.
I think if they Shrek, they could rename themselves to Samsung Green. Bowling Giant wrote, Samsung White better kill this group or they'll feed all the way home. That's pretty much how that works, yeah.
Yeah, well, keep sending those to us and be sure to use that hashtag Worlds Preview so you can all play along.
And of course, keep it clean, or at least relatively. We are still PG-13 up in this preview show.
在3分钟之后，我们才会进到真的比赛里面。现在只是一个 preview
quite literally. Former pro player and Season 2 world champion Mistake takes us on a tour through Taipei's culinary scene.
那这个的夜市之旅。
很多人对于台湾的第一印象就是有很多美味的小吃。今天我来到台北宁夏夜市，要为大家介绍当地的夜市文化，以及要让大家看看夜市里面到底有什么美味的好吃。走，跟着我们一起去看。这就是我刚刚点的大肠面线跟臭豆腐。然后这个大肠面线呢是台湾特有的小吃，在台湾是非常传统的美食。它里面是有猪大肠，这很多外国朋友可能不大敢尝试，可是台湾人非常的爱。那它吃起来的口感非常的棒，然后很多人会把它当早餐。那这个是很多国外朋友不大敢尝试的臭豆腐，它是英文名字我记得是 Stinky Tofu， 那它是油炸比较泡过水的豆腐，然后闻起来会有一点点臭，可是其实吃起来真的非常棒。然后搭配着台湾的泡菜，跟韩国的泡菜不大一样，搭配起来真的是非常好吃。
没有加香菜。
我们接着是要来吃蚵仔煎，蚵仔煎是只有台湾才有的在地美食，然后它是用蚵仔配上蛋，然后以及青菜。搭配一些芡水，然后煎成双面金黄酥脆，然后很多外国朋友都一定会来尝试看看。
蚵仔煎、自然煎是虾仁煎，就是蚵仔煎。
且台湾的蚵仔煎都会现做的，所以都会是热乎乎的。你可以看到这蚵仔很多，多少蚵？通常我们会这样子拉上一点，然后沾酱料，直接就一口。这是我刚刚买的猪血糕，然后它是台湾在地的小吃。虽然颜色看起来有点恐怖啊，听朋友讲说它吃起来的味道像吃起来的口感像 cheese 蛋糕，只是里面是糯米跟猪血。其实我也没有吃过啊，所以我在这边就要先上第一次了，我来尝试看看。
这表情，
还是给你们吃吧。盐酥鸡也是台湾非常有名的美食，然后呢，它是使用很多新鲜的食材，然后去油炸，配上九层塔，然后可能再配上一些辣椒以及蒜头。其实它跟美国的炸鸡很像，然后只是会炸了各种不同的材料。台湾人通常会配啤酒啊、饮料来吃。讲着讲着我就渴了，我们一起去找点喝的吧。
欢迎光临。
我要一杯波霸奶茶。
好，波霸奶茶，大杯的吗？
大杯。
好，冰块甜度要不要调整？
半糖少冰。今天品尝完了这么多台湾道地的美食，这次来台湾的朋友们，除了世界赛以外，别忘了来体验道地的台湾小吃哦。See you guys， 拜拜。Well, now I'm both hungry and jealous. Everybody enjoying themselves out in Taipei. Right, let's move along. 2014 World Championship is heading to Korea for the quarterfinals and beyond. I think it only seems fitting to embrace some of the Korean culture and learn some of the language. It is now time for the 2014 World's Preview Show. World Championship League of Legends Korean Phrase of the Day with today's special guest star, Counter Logic Gaming's top laner and Korean enthusiast, Seraph. Today's phrase is, can I get a gank in the bot lane? Name is more fed than a Poro in ARAM. Seraph, take it away.
Hey, 킥샤. easy. 남해가 아람의 포로보다 더 흥하고 있는데 바텀 갱 좀 부탁드려요.
Yeah, that wasn't easy. Thank you, Seraph. I'm going to have to work on my pronunciation a lot because I suck at Korean. Now that we are slightly more culturally educated, let's take a look at the teams in Group B, or what was formerly known as Group B, because we're turning to your nicknames from Twitter once again.
And of course, thank you guys for sending so many. The majority of you have noticed the same thing that TSM did, which was finally the absence of a Korean team in this group. And that prompted a few of you to suggest that this was a very lucky group, despite the fact that he's not on Royal Club anymore. Although, one of my personal favorites was Group B should be Lord's group, because they'll never beat Royal.
No. Dipping back into Monty's Twitter feed, I see you gave a shout out to Twitch chat once more by calling this group Failfish. Any particular reason?
Yeah, that's the old facepalm. You know, this group is probably not the most competitive group in terms of as we run deeper into the tournament. There's a lot of parity in this group early on. It's difficult to tell who's going to get out. In fact, pretty much any one of these four teams can theoretically get out of this group. But any team is going to lose in the quarters here. So we're going to see a lot of face-palming. We're going to see a lot of face-palming from the analysts in this group.
Strong words indeed. For me, the most appropriate nickname for this group actually came from our very own Jat during the reveal show, which is the Veterans, because all four of these teams have actually been to Worlds before.
And plenty of you actually did suggest that name yourself, although the first of you to agree with Jat was at Brett
I will thank you too. Now we've had some fun, it is time to actually check out these veteran teams in Group B, starting with the #1 North American LCS seed, it's Team Solo Mid. And the #1 team from the GPL region is the Taipei Assassins.
We're also adding the #2 team from China's LPL, Starhorn Royal Club, and the #3 team from the European LCS, SK Gaming.
All right, let's actually zoom in for a closer look at Group B, and we're going to be starting things off with SK Gaming. SK overhauled their roster coming into the 2014 season after placing 2nd in spring and 3rd in summer. SK has gone from not making Worlds last year to being a potential dark horse in their group, depending on how well they perform. Unfortunately, that potential took a serious hit on Wednesday when Svenskeren was suspended. The suspension on Svenskeren will be for SK's first 3 World Championship games, and he has also been fined $2,500 for being racially insensitive on the Taiwanese server. This is not the first time that Svenskeren has been warned about abusive interactions with players and fans, and his last formal warning was back in July. SK Gaming's substitute for the first 3 games is going to be Gilius. And the last time we saw him was when he was playing for the Unicorns of Love, the challenger team that recently defeated Millennium in the spring promotion tournament. And it's somebody that you've commented on and spectated for many months this year.
Yeah, so Gilius is a pretty good player, certainly. The difficulty, though, is that his style is very different from Svenskeren's. Of course, playing with a new player in general is always going to be very difficult, especially someone who's quite good like Svenskeren. The different style is likely to be a hindrance, but sometimes new players just click, and there's that weird chance that works out well for SK suddenly. This means SK Gaming's lineup is going to look like this for the first 3 games. In the jungle is going to be Gilius, in the mid lane is Jesses, supporting is N-rated, AD carry Candy Panda, and top laner Freddy122.
All right, Monty, coming into today's show, you actually had SK Gaming as one of your favorites to make it out into the quarterfinals. How much has Svenskeren's actions affected his team's chances, in your opinion?
Quite a lot. In fact, I mean, they're not coming in with a lot of scrim time or any at all potentially with Gilius. And it's unfortunate because if we look at this team and the European playoffs, I think this was a very strong team. They really gave Alliance a run for their money in a way that nobody else did during these playoffs. And for me, they were really the second best team coming out of Europe, even though they couldn't take the second seed due to being paired with Alliance in the semifinals. So I think they're quite good. I was excited to watch them. Now I think they are probably going to take last of the
Yeah, I felt the same. Crepo, can I just get you to comment on SK losing Svenskeren? These are players that you've known for a long period of time. How much does it mess with your gel to lose that man?
I mean, we have had to switch players throughout this season, and it's definitely really hard to just get that vibe, get the same people on the same page immediately, and then in such a big event for Gilius, who started in Challenger scene, made it into LCS, hasn't played it, and immediately has to go to Worlds. That's going to be a tough blow. However, whenever I tuned into the Challenger scene, I always liked what he was doing. He was an active player, had a good sense of understanding of the game, and he had good mechanics. So I hope he performs.
Well, we'll see if it does. Definitely for SK's chances. All right, up next, it is the GPL's Taipei Assassins. The Taipei Assassins won the Season 2 World Championship, surprising everyone with a phenomenal performance. This surprise was actually equaled by TPA's inability to qualify for Worlds last year. Over the last 2 years, TPA has struggled to find a consistently strong roster, but they do seem to have found a recipe for success in their current 6-man squad. They blasted through the winter, spring, and summer splits of the GPL, earning the #1 seed from their region.
And we actually saw this team play at the Paris All-Star Invitational back in May. But when they played there, Wins had just joined the roster as their junglers a couple of weeks ago. So these teams, or this team specifically, has gotten a lot better since then. And it's something we're going to actually watch how well Wins actually synergizes with that roster. Let's check out the starting lineup. In the top lane is Achi. In the mid lane is Morning, or maybe Chawi if they sub him out. Supporting is Jay. AD carry is BB, and jungle is Wins.
Yeah, and just to expand on that mid lane point, both Chawi and Morning have played in their regular season, so it is a strategy this team may employ. I want to ask more about Wins, and I want to ask Monty your opinion because I know you know him quite well.
Yeah, he's a veteran, so he's got a lot of experience on the world stage from last year. Well, not a lot, a little bit. He did only play one best of 3, but he looked good, and he's only developed since then. And he always occupies a space kind of in the middle of the challenger ladder in Korea. He's known for his Lee Sin play. And moreover, he's now getting coached. Another thing that we really need to talk about is that one of the former coaches from the Najin organization in Korea has moved over to the Taipei Assassins. And we've seen them improve dramatically under his tutelage. And man, they look good in the GPL finals. Clean sweep.
Yeah, they definitely are looking good. I keep talking about AD carries, and every time I do, it's double lift I throw them to. BB, AD carry. Go.
Well, CLG did a boot camp in Korea, and I had the pleasure of practicing against BB and Jay. And I can tell you from first-hand experience that I would be very surprised if he had a good time in lane in this group. Honestly, he's not a very strong player in lane. He's more of a hyper carry. He loves to farm. He loves to do the double lift and split push solo on AD carries until he's strong enough for team fight. But really, his laning phase to me seemed incredibly weak. So that's just something to look out for.
I sincerely hope he's learned from the double lift and not going to make the same mistakes. Right, let's move on. The next team in Group B is China's Star Horn Royal Club. Many of you will remember Royal Club as the team who made it to the final match in Worlds last year before being beaten by SK Telecom T1K. This, however, is almost an entirely different team.
It really is. The new player is going to include 2 Korean former stars, including jungler Insec. And this is a new lineup that has actually looked pretty good. They took 2nd place in the LPL regional final to qualify for that return trip to Worlds. Let's take a look at the total starting lineup here. In the jungle is Insec. The AD carry is UZI, that's what we're calling him here. The support is going to be Zero. The mid lane is Korn, and the top laner is Cola.
Yeah, it's very a strong lineup. Many players remember Uzi from last year. He has stated quite clearly it's UZI. And AD carry, it's double lift. I'm going to ask Chinese AD carry, UZI. What do you think?
So he blew everyone's minds last year at Worlds. I mean, he made these ridiculous plays. His mechanics were spot on, but his biggest weakness in the LPL has been his inconsistency. This guy is not afraid to jump in 1v5, and sometimes it works out, and he escapes with 10% HP in situations where other AD carries would have just died. But he is a big risk taker, and that's a good and a bad thing for his team.
Yeah, I mean, I look at UZI and I see that playmaking possibility, and in a way, his style perfectly works with Insec, their jungler, because these are both guys that are action first, think later, right? And that's why Insec, he fell off in Korea. His mechanics are still great. He's very aggressive, but he overextends. He gets ahead of his team. But when he's with another player who does that as well, it almost works because they can force so many skirmishes around the map that they often catch teams off guard.
And this is a team I actually have my eye on a lot as well because they could just be so darn good. The problem is getting everyone onto the same page. They have to play in English together, which is none of the players' main language, right? Like, if this team could learn to play as a unit of 5, they would be ludicrously incredible.
Yeah, there's one thing that's interesting, though. If you contrast them to OMG, they are both very aggressive, both in your face, when you see which one can learn the most between their regional qualifiers and now the world stage. Now, with that, it brings us to the final team in the group, North America's Team Solo Mid. TSM had a dramatic finish to the summer playoffs, beating their rivals Cloud9 for the first time ever to take the #1 North American seed back. And they are certainly no strangers to the world stage. This marks their 4th appearance at the World Championship, and this time, more than ever, TSM actually has the ability to do well.
Yeah, I think this is the best roster TSM have actually ever put together now. The individual skill level is really high on this group of 5. So they kind of brought in new players at the beginning of the year. They've expanded that support staff as well with Coach Loco Doko. And for the first time in a year and a half, they're, as you said, back to being the #1 team in North America. So this is a roster that could go far here. Let's check out the starting roster, though. On the jungle is Amazing. In the top lane is Dyrus. In the mid lane is Bjergsen. At AD carry is Wild Turtle. And supporting is Lustboy.
Yeah, now both Crepo, you and Double Lift have played against this team all season long. Crepo, I want to ask your opinion in the support role on Lustboy. He seems to have transformed that duo lane with Wild Turtle.
I just think Lustboy is a really solid player. I think his laning is not his strong point, but he's solid enough to go toe-to-toe with a lot of other people. But I just like what he brings in terms of vision control. He's very calm. He rarely gets caught out and just is a very methodical player. When you watch TSM play and when they rotate around the map, Lustboy will often be leading a charge. I don't know if he's calling them, but he definitely knows first where to go, and he just does that immediately. No hesitation, and just a super solid player.
Yeah, definitely seems to be performing well. Double Lift, anything to add on the rest of the squad? Maybe looking at Bjergsen as really their all-star player at the moment.
Yeah, I think when a point of contention when you're watching a game is something to talk about is when somebody goes even against Bjergsen. That's something that's interesting about the game. That is a big problem because Bjergsen is just a monster. He's unrivaled in North America. This guy almost always solo kills his lane, if not just consistently pressures them. And the thing to note about Bjergsen is he will break the opponent mid laner. There will be times early in the series, or maybe the first game he's up against someone, he goes even. Then as it goes further and further across the tournament, he just essentially destroys them, picks them apart.
I definitely agree that Bjergsen is a very strong individual player. I still have to call into question TSM's shot calling a little bit, just because I know it's not a role Bjergsen really loves, but it's the one he's kind of been forced to embrace a little bit. So his 1v1s are still very strong, but TSM, I think, are going to have a really hard time keeping up strategically with some of the teams in this tournament.
Well, we'll have to see. They learned a lot at the North American playoffs. We are actually going to turn things over to the mind of Monte Cristo once again, as he highlights 4 players in the laning phase.
Thanks again, Quick Shot. When you look at the lineup of talent on these four teams, it should really come as no surprise that the matches in this group, just like in Group A, will rely on the AD carries. So let's take a quick look at the four ADCs in Group B. For SK Gaming, we'll start off with Candy Panda. He is one of the most experienced ADCs in Europe, and he also brings experience with him from his World Championship appearance in Season 1. Team Solo Mid's Wild Turtle is next. He's one of the most unpredictable ADCs in North America. His performance at Worlds last year proved that he is one of the strongest players for TSM. For Starhorn Royal Club, Zuziai, he's back again. He's one of the best ADCs in China. He's one of the top in the world, and he rivals Name, but more as a playmaking ADC. You'll probably remember him from his performance last year at Worlds, where he nearly carried the team all the way to a title. And finally, the Taipei Assassins have Bibi, who is the only returning member from the team that won the World Championship in Season 2. He posted huge numbers for TPA this year, winning the GPL and bringing them to Worlds. Let's talk a little bit about ranking. If you rank the ADCs coming into this group, here's how I think they measure up. Coming in at number 4, it's going to be Wild Turtle. At the World Championship last year, he was one of, if not TSM's biggest asset. But his most recent playoff run has been inconsistent. His laning phase has been poor, his team fighting has been hit or miss, and while the rest of his teammates have really risen to the occasion, he's stayed a little bit behind. Coming in at number 3, I've got Candy Panda. Candy Panda is a veteran player who's looking to improve his performance from Worlds in Season 1, where he fell out of groups. He's pretty strong in Europe, but he is a bit behind the other two ADCs in this group, who are both former world finalists and one world champion. World champion's coming in at number 2. It's Bibi. This is his return to the world stage for the first time since he won in Season 2. TPA right now is focused on getting him ahead. Like Double F says, he may not have the stronger laning phase, but he does play hyper carries, and they do rely on him significantly in the late game. Now, number 1, it's got to be Uzi. Uzi has a long list of accomplishments, including his crazy Vayne mechanics from last year's appearance at Worlds. With any luck, we'll see his aggressive outplays this year, and if we're not seeing those outplays, we're probably going to see him fast pushing on Caitlyn. So that's the laning phase for Group B, and that means we'll be watching the bottom lane a lot in Taipei. Quick Shot, back to you.
Thank you very much, Monty. Make sure you catch that Korean hype train on the way back. Now, it is time to hear from a player who's made it all 4 World Championships, as Riv caught up with TSM's Dyrus regarding their chances in Group B.
What's up, League fans? Rivington here with Dyrus atop the Shangri-La Far East Plaza. Absolutely gorgeous here in Taipei, Taiwan. Got the chance here to sit down with Dyrus and talk a little bit about Worlds, and I want to start first with the victory at PAX. What did it mean to you to take down Cloud9 and get the LCS title in your personal accomplishments?
Normally it wouldn't be as high, but every game was so close fought that it was well earned. It was a really hard fought battle through every single match, and it was very close every single game, and we finally made it.
Finally made it, and you for a 4th time now. What's different about this year that compares to the rest? What can you kind of take out of this and bring to this Worlds?
Well, this year a different roster every single time, except me. I've been here. Personally, it just gets better every year because it isn't really about the prize pool. It isn't really about, like, you know, well, it is about winning or losing, but every single year more and more fan interaction comes to the scene, and it becomes more and more exciting to, you know, perform for the fans.
Right on. So a lot of people feel that you guys kind of got a favorable group draw. How do you feel about it?
In my opinion, we've gotten maybe the first or second best group we could get possible. Of course, that doesn't mean it's a free ticket to Worlds. In best of ones, out of like 2 matches per each team, anyone can win. And if we just slip up that one game, if we go under pressure, like, even if we are favored to get out of our groups, it's really, really easy to not get out of groups.
You guys kind of got a little recognition and praises sung by Samsung Blue Acorn on social media that says, you know, you guys were the hardest team to face. Are there any teams that you are actually looking forward to facing in Worlds?
Personally, I'm looking forward to playing against every single one, whether they're good or not as good as the other teams. They're really, really fun to play against. I feel very, very confident in what we've been doing, and, you know, as long as we play to our best and did our best and we still lose, then, you know, that's how far we got. And if we win, then we all know what's going to happen.
So follow up on that, is there any player you would like to specifically face in this Worlds matchup?
Out of all the top laners I really respect so far is Going. And last year he just, by playing against him and Impact, they just showed me like a top lane level of mechanics of where, you know, I just wasn't there yet. And this year I want to see how far I've gotten to compare up to them.
一个 Going 跟那个 Impact 的上路，
before a final question. What was the Dyrus we saw at PAX? It was definitely a different Dyrus, a very emotional and powerful Dyrus. Will we see that here at Worlds?
In my opinion, the emotions kind of get in the way because when I did that at PAX, it ruins my team's concentration and what we need to do next. It's going to be more serious and more strict on myself, but I'm going to be looking to play strongly as I did as PAX.
All right, and Dyrus, what would it mean to you to win Worlds?
It would mean that the last 3 times I didn't make it, that as long as I put my mind to it and as long as my teammates, you know, kept doing what they were doing and I just stepped up to my teammates' level, then it would mean everything. It would mean I'm giving the win to myself, to my fans, to North America, and just everyone in general.
Thank you very much for that, Riv and Dyrus, and I'm sure picking up those wins will mean a lot to the TSM fans as well, but you need to pick those wins up. Winning gets you out of groups. We've dissected Group B. I want to ask the panel, which 2 teams will be advancing from Group B to take place in the quarterfinals in Busan, Korea? I'm going to start with Crepo, formerly of the European Union. You turned to Apple Pie. You turned to Freedom. Are you a believer in TSM or not?
Last year, I put all my hopes for a Royal Lucian. Didn't end up happening, so I'm going TSM all the way this year. I think actually they have a chance of placing first in their group, with a close second being Royal Club. It might be the other way around. I'm sure Monty disagrees with me here. But yeah, something tells me, you know, I have this gut feeling that TSM is going to show up and place first.
Well, it's going to be interesting. Double, if you've played against them even longer than Crepo has. Give me your opinion, your top 2, who's getting out of groups?
Definitely Starhorn Royal Club as the first. They're just the strongest team in the group to me. They come from China, a very aggressive region. Their team fighting is immaculate. They have UZI, like, this guy is a monster. He's going to crush everyone bottom lane. And then number 2, Taipei Assassins. Even though this group doesn't have a Korean team, to me, they're like the honorary Koreans because they scrim constantly against Korean teams. They play in the fastest region with the lowest game time. That means these guys are super objective focused, and it'll catch everyone off guard. Just don't underestimate TPA. In my opinion, they're going to make it out of the groups.
So no faith at all in TSM. You don't think that they're going to show up and, you know, take them out?
It's close between TPA and TSM, but I have to say, TPA's playstyle, to me, inherently counters TSM's.
A CLG member suddenly not believing in TSM. Yeah.
All right, let's talk a little bit more. Monte Cristo, who is your top 2 teams? Does TSM feature? I know you liked SK before the incident.
Yeah, I mean, the reality is that SK doesn't have that same scrim practice that they've had in Korea with their normal junglers, Svenskeren, so any substitute situation is really going to knock them down the standings. I got them at number 4. Number 1, I'm taking Starhorn Royal Club. This is a team that has, with UZI, has a lot of international experience. He stepped up his game last year. And for me, the difference between Starhorn and TSM is that they kind of target the weak point in Wild Turtle's laning phase. I see UZI kind of getting huge out of the lane here, and as much as TSM has stepped it up with their other members, I think they're just not going to be used to the heavy, aggressive, skirmishing style of Royal. There aren't that many teams that play like they do, and I think they'll have an edge.
Yeah, between the rest of the table, TSM, TPA, Royal Club, is there any differences on your side? Which 2 are getting out?
No, for me, number 1, definitely Starhorn Royal Club. UZI is basically just going to have a farm lane, both with minions and champions down there. It's going to be, honestly, I feel pretty free for him, and he can carry his team to victory almost single-handedly here. The number 2 team for me, though, is Team Solomid. I think they're actually quite strong individually across the board, which is good for them. Taipei Assassins, to me, could finish somewhere between first and third. Like, maybe they could upset the entire group. The problem is their region is so shallow. It's like they have HQ and then a bunch of like CLGs. Like most of the are not really big tests. And so you say like they have these really fast game times, but like that doesn't necessarily mean anything for TPA here. So I don't know how strong they necessarily are. But maybe they're actually incredible, and maybe they finish number 1. But to me, it's SHRC number 1, TSM number 2, TPA number 3.
All right, well, first off, I'm going to get you back for that at some point. And second of all, I'm going to counter your argument by saying TPA has been scrimming Korean teams for a whole year. North American teams can only dream of going to Korea and kind of boot camping for a couple weeks, but these guys practice against Koreans all year.
Yeah, but we saw how well Korean scrims turned out, right?
Yeah, definitely worked out.
Well, we can't expect anything from the other Korean boot camps, can we, right before Worlds?
Let's move this one along. And even though we have the president of Puntown with us, we're going to turn to you for a bit of wacky wordplay. It's time once more for the 2014 World Championship preview show, Mad Libs. By now you know the drill. This is where we take your submissions on Twitter, drop them into a sentence that none of you guys have seen, and hopefully we end up with something funny.
That's how I do puns. Remember that earlier we revealed the sentence to you guys? This team name better verb this group, or they will verb all the way home, and these were our favorite responses for Group B. At Fictitious Panda tweeted, TSM better hop this group, or they'll flop all the way home.
A few of our analysts said they could do that. Our second one also comes from a TSM fan, and says from @Coco5, says TSM better eat this group, or they'll sleep all the way home. That is how you get fed.
It's true, although the weird thing is if you eat, you tend to get sleepy afterwards, so I don't know, we're going to have to see. But I'm, of course, starting to see a trend here because our next tweet is also about TSM. At DJ Grizzy wrote, TSM better one-erd this group or they'll be capping all the way home.
Definitely not words. Now, just because your answer didn't make air this time, don't worry, we will be playing again next week with a brand new sentence.
It's going to be great. So be sure to follow at LOL Esports on Twitter and keep your eye out for the next round of World Championship Mad Libs.
Yeah, and with the very first stage of Worlds kicking off soon, let's take a look at the schedule. There are 24 games heading your way as Groups A and B compete in Taiwan, beginning with a showdown between
第二场的部分是 TSM 对上 SK。那第三场的部分不好意思露馅了，第三场部分是 AHQ 对上 DP， 第四场是 TPA 对上 SRC， 然后第五场呢是这个已经是这个礼拜五了，我讲太慢了。礼拜五的话，同样是进行6场，是 A 组跟 B 组的这个一样是 A 组 B 组的小组赛。其实这个礼拜这个礼拜4、5、6日其实晚上都是 A 组跟 B 组的小组赛。那 A 组跟 B 组小组赛，他们队伍之间互相会打到2场。礼拜4、礼拜5会打1场，礼拜5、礼拜6、礼拜天会再打1场。对，所以基本上你可以这4天呢，其实都可以慢慢锁定。那其实今天重点呢，有人说今天为什么要看，或者是说，这个第一天嘛，这个可能比较不好看或者什么，其实未必，因为今天来说是一个，像我们赛前来讲，其实我们完全不知道各地区的实力如何。你说 TBA 到底有没有办法跟韩国的实力拉起？其实我们也都不知道，其实真的没有人知道。对，所以真正要见真章就是今天了。今天到底 TBA 打得怎么样，或者今天 AHQ 打得怎么样，其实就是要看今天了，这样子。
I think if any team has a legitimate shot at dethroning the Koreans in this tournament, it's EDG, and it begins now.
All right, well, we're nearly ready to close things out, but we can't leave without hearing from Riv and Jet once more.
Thanks, Trevor. And this is the venue, the National Taiwan University Sports Center, where 8 of the best teams from around the world will be competing to get out of the group stages on Thursday.
And as you can see, there's still plenty going on here. Riv and I actually have to head inside for rehearsal because the World Championship starts in about 12 hours.
That's right, lots to do. So take care, guys. We'll see you on Thursday.
Let's go.
Thank you guys very much. We will see you for day 1 of the 2014 World Championship, which kicks off in roughly 12 hours.
So unless people are watching the special encore presentation of this show, in which case we're about 5 minutes away from the first game. So one of the two.
Yeah, well, whether you are watching during our initial airing or the second presentation, that about does it for the Group Stage 1 World's preview show. But before we go, we are very excited to debut the brand new 2014 World Championship Anthem. It's a collaboration between Riot's music team and Imagine Dragons. Our preview show's last hit will now be your first hit of Worlds, and here it is, the premiere of Warriors.
新歌吧，好像。
As a child, you would wait and watch from far away, but you always knew that you'd be the one to work while they all play. And you'd lay awake at night and scheme of all the things that you would change, but it was just a dream. your spirit never dies. Farewell, I've gone to take my throne above, but don't weep for me, 'cause this will be the labor of my love. Here we are, don't turn away now. We are the warriors that built this town. Here we are, don't turn away now. We are the warriors that built this town. Here we are, don't turn away now. We are the warriors that built this town. Here we are, don't turn away now. We are the warriors that built this town. From dust.
都进到现场了。
Welcome to the 2014 League of Legends World Championship. For the last 10 months, teams from around the globe have been fighting simply to make it this far. You are currently looking live at the National Taiwan University Sports Center. The greatest League of Legends players in the world have come to prove themselves. AHQ Esports Club entering the venue. Starhorn Royal Club in their ready room, getting themselves sorted for the day. And of course, the hometown favorites, the Taipei Assassins, heading in with all of their gear. There are 16 teams that have risen through the ranks, and today, 8 of them will continue their quest for the Summoners Cup and the title of World Champions. I am Trevor Quickshot Henry, and joining me here on the analyst desk are some of the top minds from League of Legends. Starting with Evil Geniuses, Mitch, Crepo, Forcepools, Team Dignitas, Alberto, Crumbs, Rengifo, welcome to the desk. Next up is, of course, on Game Netcaster, Christopher Monte Cristo Michaels, and the President Punster of North American LCS, David Freak Turley. It's great to have you guys here. Thank you for joining us. Now, our tournament begins today in Taipei, where the first 8 teams in both groups A and B will compete through September 21st for a chance to survive and advance towards a shot at the Summoners Cup. Then we'll head to Singapore, where the second set of teams from Group C and D will play their matches at the Singapore Expo on September 25th through to the 28th. The top 2 teams from each group will advance to the quarterfinals in Busan, Korea, and those 8 teams will go head-to-head in the Bexco Auditorium October 3rd through October 6th. The action will then shift to Seoul, Korea, with 4 teams in the semi-finals at the Olympic Gymnastics Arena on October 11th and 12th. And all of that leads up to the 2014 World Championship match, which will take place in the Sangam World Cup Stadium on October 19th, as the last 2 teams standing will battle for this year's Summoners Cup. Now, we are both proud and honored that this 2014 World Championship will be broadcast around the globe in 16 different languages with over 24 different broadcast partners, so the term Worlds is ridiculously appropriate. Over the next 4 weeks, we'll be seeing former world champion TPA player Mistake, along with Remember, casting for the Garena Premier League. That's going to be covering Southeast Asia and Taiwan, along with the casters from China's Tencent League of Legends Pro League, and of course coverage from Korea's on-game. We of course have our own team on the ground in Taipei to bring you all of the action. So let's actually send it over to the caster desk for a preview of today's matches.
Hello, everyone. I am Rivington Bislin III, and making up our caster Trinity Force is Lee D-Man Smith and Joshua Jat Leesman.
Yeah, and this is just so crazy. We've been waiting the entire year for the World Championship to start, and it's finally here. Plus, it's the middle of the day, so it's a little bright. It'll get darker as we get later in the day, but we got 6 games now to play.
Yeah, we have got a jam-packed day. To kick off our World Championships, of course, it is starting out with China's #1 seed, Edward Gaming, versus Korea's Samsung White. And that's going to be followed by North America's Summer Champions, Team Solamid, taking on Europe's SK Gaming.
That's right, D-Man. After that, 2 teams make their Worlds debut with Dark Passage from Turkey versus the GPL's AHQ Esports Club. Then, one of the home teams will head to the stage as the Taipei Assassins face China's Starhorn Royal Club.
And in our final 2 matches, AHQ will take on Samsung White, and Starhorn Royal Club will face off against Team Solo Mid.
Yeah, it's going to be amazing stuff. For now, though, we're going to send it over to Shox at the interview lounge for some initial thoughts on today's games.
Thank you very much, D-Man. And hello, everyone. I'm Evie Shox de Poorter, joined here at the interview lounge by Sam Kobe Hartman-Kensler and Martin the Fisher Lunge. Now, guys, anticipation is running high. And I have to ask, what are you guys most looking forward to today, Kobe?
Well, it's got to be the very first game coming up here. Edward Gaming, the #1 seed coming out of China, versus Samsung White, quite possibly the strongest team coming into the entire tournament. And with the way that Ozone performed last year in group stages, I expect them to come out of the gate swinging here right from the beginning. Should be one of the most exciting matches of the entire group.
Totally agree, Martin.
I mean, have to agree, of course. Game 1 is going to be insane. Game 2, SK Gaming, new jungler now, Gilius. What can he do on the big stage? I mean, the guy's coming from Challenger scene, 2 worlds instantly, and SK Gaming, they have to perform. Playing TSM here, Europe against NA, it's going to start already. And then I'm also looking at TPA against Starhorn Royal Club. I mean, TPA, they're playing here, the home crowd. And if they can actually manage to survive the early game, I believe they do have a chance to win, and it would be pretty awesome if they did.
Very interesting. Well, we will be catching up with the pros throughout the day to get the inside story on every explosive match. But for now, let's send things back over to the guys at the analyst desk.
Thank you very much, Shox and crew. The 2014 World Championship is bringing together teams and players from around the world. I wouldn't mind asking you guys to give me some insight into some of the regional strengths and the differences between the teams taking part. Crumbs, you're the new kid on the block, so tell me your thoughts.
Well, we have Europe coming in as more of a dark horse. The last time they played, we saw them play at Gamescom mid-August, so it's been a while. And really, the only time we've seen these players play is in the Korean solo queue ladder, along with the North American teams. Now, they've been doing excellently in these They've achieved master level, challenger level, which makes me think perhaps the mechanical difference between the North American and European teams with the Koreans just isn't there. They're both able to play at the same level.
Yeah, I think that we have seen a lot of teams and players mechanically catching up to the Koreans, and that's not the big difference between the teams. A lot of the time, we do have exceptional mechanical players in the West as well as in Asia, but it's that team play element, right? It's that depth of strategic knowledge, the vision control. That's what really differentiates the Korean teams from everybody else.
Yeah, and I'm just looking forward to how these Western teams have been adapting to scrims in Korea. I've been there in 2012 when we were there. Initially, we lost all our scrims, but after a week, you really start learning, you start adapting to their play style. And yeah, as you said, mechanically, maybe they're not exactly on the same level, but they're close enough for where it matters. But they can just learn a lot about the macro level strategy of these Korean teams. And then one point in particular that I want to see is how fast are those Korean top laners going to be teleporting down? Because when I play bot lane and I'm in a skirmish, it takes me about 10 seconds once we start fighting. Once they get low, like, hey, we can get our top laner in here. When I watch Korean League, they're in there like in an instant, and I'm just so surprised how quick they react. There's very few TP cancels as well, so I'm really looking forward to these top laners interacting with their bottom lane through teleports or even just mid lane.
And I'm actually more interested myself in seeing how the various regions do interact. I actually want to see more regional differences because I agree, especially with Monte Cristo, the Koreans are generally a step ahead, especially strategically. So I want to see teams kind of forget that element of the game, rely on the fact that they're going to be mechanically about equal, and play a different type of game. Play a more early game aggressive game, try to win your lane. We've got amazing Western players like Bjergsen and Froggen who can just crush people, who are so darn good individually. Use that, snowball a lead, play a 20-minute and then fall off team comp to get some of these upset wins. I think that's the way you beat the heavy favorites in the Korean teams.
Well, definitely a risky strategy. We will see if that pays out for them. If you guys at home do want to get on any last-minute studying, make sure you head over to lolesports.com. That's where you can find interviews, stats, VODs of their previous matches, and much more. You can also find a complete schedule for this week and vote for the teams that you win.
准备过程中其实有在韩服打，那其实在很多玩家都可以很轻松的打上钻石或不能讲钻石，说的是大师跟精英阶级，对，所以说其实对于单一的玩家的这个实力来讲，其实这些玩家们其实都非常非常的有实力，对，可是呢在像 Monty 跟 Crapple 其实刚刚有稍微提到的部分，就是说，其实实力当然大家都有一定的实力，甚至说当然西方队未必会比韩国队伍来的差，可是呢重点就是说整个队伍的一个战术或者整个队伍的一些插眼、一些视野、一些掌握，可能才是这个比赛当中比较重要的一些这个因素，这样子。对，那其实刚刚 Crapple 其实有稍微提到说这个这个他们之前在韩国训练的时候，其实第一周也是被打很惨，第二周开始才会理解到说，为什么我们开始去真的去学到说韩国人到底是哪边比较强，然后他们是怎么样去理解这款游戏的这样子。
This guy right here, Westor, that's who I want to see. He used to play on the NA ladder, widely popular here. That's what I want to see him perform.
Don't forget, you've got the home crowd advantage for them as well, so I think SCA team's going to show up.
Yeah, definitely. This is, of course, Dark Passage from International Wildcard, qualifying from Turkey. Holy Phoenix is their star. They want to see if they can get him to play.
And I just like Fab Fabulous because he's called Fab Fabulous.
Great name.
I think this is one of the teams as well where they've got to rely on trying to make individual plays. Maybe they can make some games happen.
现场应该在介绍比赛的选手们。
At Samsung White from On Game Net champions from Korea, probably the favorites for the tournament. Really, people a lot of faith in the team. I know Crepa's looking forward to seeing Mata play.
I want to get schooled.
Of course, we are going to be looking at the #1 seed from the LPL from China, Edward Gaming.
Edward Gaming这一季在中国表现非常的好。
Oh, sure. And they are built around him. It's a lot of raise the AD carry, make him crash. And we'll see. I think Name is worth all the hype, though. He can bring this team far.
First time international stage. You never know. You never know.
And there's a real chance that he doesn't show up today, but...
Edward Gaming 其实有2个队员，就是打野的 Clear Love， 打野 Clear Love 跟这个辅助的部分其实是之前前打 B 的队员。因为他们冲速相对来讲是比较快，他们在1年之间直接拿到了中国区的第1名。
Oh, that's for sure. Always keeps his cool. Right, next up from the LPL, Season 3 finalist as far as the franchise is concerned. It is Starhorn Royal Club, but only Uzi, not UZI. Much confusion has been had regarding his name.
It's not an Uzi name to say, after all.
Oh no, it's too early in the day for puns, freak.
Wow. 2 in the morning, I start quick.
Of course, you got #1 seed from the North American LCS.
他为什么讲话要这么的慢呢？
TSM calling him to make it out the groups.
They better not let me down, else I'm gonna look really dumb.
If I recall, prediction game at Worlds last year didn't go well for you.
Alsar did.
Also did.
I'm in an upwards position right now.
And of course, representing Garena Premier League, Season 2 World Champions, missed last year, have returned. It is the Taipei Assassins. I imagine this crowd is going to lose it when they take
I can't wait to hear the crowd, man.
We played a show match with them one day in Taiwan, and it was absolutely insane. Really cool crowd.
We will see. We watched those GPL finals. The team looked fantastic.
接下来就让我们到召唤峡谷一决胜负喽！
我等会结束我唱名之前，我还是要让他唱一下啦。哇哦，全部直接走出来吗？太精彩了！这好乱的，妈呀！哇，这可以拍个全家福了。看不太到，已经有点不太好。
There are very, very few words that can truly encapsulate the feeling of being on that stage, being in that auditorium, and the pressure that is on these guys' shoulders. World Championships, it starts right now. Before we get to the games, I do want to go down the line, ask you guys some opinions that myself and the viewers can actually start to learn from this first stage of games in Group Stage 1 in Taipei. Let's talk about what we're going to learn, talk about what we can understand for the rest of the World Championship. Once again, Krabs, you're on my hit list. Start us off.
The match to watch is going to be EDG versus Samsung White.
对，其实最重要的就是第一场啊。
Playing against the #2 seed from Korea, which is arguably the better team and possibly the best team in the world right now. These two teams will give us a really good understanding as to how China stacks up against Korea. And from that, since both of these teams are highly favored to win the whole thing, this could be a final match to watch right in the first game.
It's true, and I do think that the Korean teams are absolutely incredible, especially teams like Samsung White, but I'm actually really interested in seeing what the 2 Taiwanese teams are going to bring out here, because I think the GPL is sort of underrepresented. Again, in Season 2, TPA won the whole thing. No one thought they would. They were a huge underdog there. And then last year, we had Mineski and Game & Bear show up, who were gigantic underdogs. They didn't win a single game, and it kind of undersold the region. But AHQ and TPA are much better than I think people are giving them credit for, and they're going to turn some heads.
Yeah, I agree with that. Just from seeing TPA scrim over the last couple of months, you have to remember they brought in a Korean coach from Najin, and they've just been getting better and better and better. They had a very clean sweep in the GPL finals, and I'm excited to see them, especially with the home crowd behind them. That could really be the key to win in a very close group.
Something I'm going to pay close attention to is just vision control in general. It is no longer like last year that you can just buy an Oracle and just start sweeping the map. Vision control is a lot more methodical, especially with supports. Are they going to do Mobi boots early? Are they going to play like the Koreans? Are we going to see deep wards? Are people going to play with fewer or more wards? How are they going to play around those wards? That's something I'm going to pay a lot of attention to in the games. And I just want to see how far Korean is ahead in terms of macro level strategy and vision control.
Yeah, it's actually really interesting. This is the first World Championship with trinkets. I know we're all used to it playing in the game, but
it was less than a year ago those things got added to the game, so it is a very different game from last year.
Yep. We'll definitely see how that pans out. Thank you very much. Gentlemen, we are gearing up for that first match of the day.
其实讲到还蛮，其实我还是觉得要翻译一下的，所以我觉得不太想翻译这样。啊，第一场的部分的话是5点整，那是神圣 Y 对上的是 EDG。那 EDG 在上一季，在这一季的这个是第一名的中国第一名的这个资格进到的冠军赛。那神圣 Y 的话是韩国的第2名，对，他们败给了神圣，这个是自己的兄弟队神圣 Blue 这样子。然后我跟大家稍微解释一下，这个等一下在所有转播当中只会听到我的声音，除非我可能觉得说这个我觉得这个转播可能这场比赛我没有要打算要转播，像其实今天我也不知道哪一场不用转播，因为其实今天我觉得每一场都有点重要这样，所以我今天可能如果喉咙比较累的情况下，我可能就会放他原本的声音，然后做很简单的讲评，就是例如说可能翻译一些重点，或者是说就可能不会去把比赛的每一个细节都讲明，因为其实有些东西其实会战有时候发生什么事情啊，这个以一个主播线赛评的角度来说，我是会讲的。可是当然如果在那个我在因为真的没有办法一个人连续转播6场比赛，然后这样子其实真的，我今天即使可以这样讲，我明天也就不能讲了。所以为了保养我的喉咙，所以我今天可能没有办法真的说每一场都去讲得非常的仔细。当然一些重要的赛事，尤其像第一场这个5点开始的 EDG 对上神圣 Y 其实是非常重要的一场，所以呢我们这一场基本上是会进行全部转播这样。那这个礼拜4、5、6日都有比赛，下礼拜4、5、6日也都有比赛。原则上我应该都会转播。那如果不会转播，应该说会转播，我都会在我自己的粉丝团来告知大家。那你们在这边可以看到，是我现在有2个台在做一个转播。那由于是用同一台电脑去做实况，2个不同的实况软体去做实况，所以可能如果这个在这个如果有点不顺的情况下，请你要告诉我，因为我希望这个比赛是能够是顺畅的进行的，对。那在 Twitch TV 这边的话是没有画面，因为由于给这个画面会被 ban， 所以我没办法提供画面，所以我额外就另外开了一个 YouTube。那两边的声音未必会同步，因为其实这个要看他们的官方的 delay 到底是多久，对，所以说我们这边我是建议大家来到 YouTube 频道来做一个观看，对。那原则上我会尽量转播完所有比赛，除非有一些状况发生，例如说可能观众怎么一直掉啊，或者是说这个比赛可能我个人认为这一场没有到那么的重要，那我可能就会稍作休息一下，因为其实一个人要转播6场比赛是一个非常非常，我们先不论它困不困难，它是一个非常费力的事情啊。你看他们有分析台，有什么的，有现场转播，现场这个访问的，也有就是在比赛当中主播赛评，其实他们有非常非常多的一个人力去这样跑，而且像在台湾的话，也有好几组的这个比赛，这个赛评跟主播可以去做替换。那可是我的话，小 J 只有一个，所以用坏就没了，所以我会好好珍惜我自己的，我会好好的这个努力的转播比赛给大家，可是也希望大家也是希望观众能够比较买账一点，这样要不然其实我就不太需要去做转播啊。我也很想要能够这个在家里面，然后嗑个瓜子，然后去看个比赛。其实这对我来讲是很轻松的事情，因为我其实当然了，对我们这种赛评来讲，我的转播比赛，其实我们自己也都看得懂，我们不需要再额外的去做转播。可是对于一般观众而言，对这些队伍的了解不够多，对比赛的理解也不够这个没有足够见解的情况下，就会需要有第三者去做一个转播的动作。
对，那你当然同时你也可以选择看原厂 Riot Games 的，或者是 Garena 的，对，都可以。那当然还有对岸的，听说长毛今天好像也有代班吧，反正其实有很多的选择啊。那既然长毛都已经可以到中国去赚钱，那我也就不需要避险，因为以往我是不太喜欢跟台湾的这个主播赛评去抢观众这样。那大部分的这些英文我都有在听，那会做翻译，可是未必是当下会做翻译。所以可能会在游戏里面会，等下会给你带到。
And honestly, I still think though that Samsung White has a bit of an edge here because I think they match everywhere so darn well. Now, the one thing Edward does have, though, is Name, an incredibly strong AD carry, and him and FCZF are going to do whatever they can in the duo lane. But I really, really want to see how that matches up.
对于 Edward Gaming， 他们都非常的这个。
If Edward wins, Name goes off. Whether Name plays an aggressive
非常的期待 Name 到底可以表现到多好，因为他是一个这个应该说名声非常好的一个 AD 嘛，就是他的口碑非常好。
Many view them as the strongest team in the region. This is
应
the
该是
second
在
trip to
做
Worlds.
游戏的
Last
测
year
试
played
啊。
as Samsung Ozone, but they have made a notable change. It is a new mid laner, and they appear to be significantly stronger than last year.
Yeah, Pawn is a very solid mid lane player, and I think that this roster swap, one of the coaches said in an interview a while back that switching Pawn and Dade, the intention was to get both teams to Worlds. He was a little bit of a more rookie player at the time, and so he kind of fell in line behind the shot calling from Dandy and Mata, the more playmaking players, whereas Dade fit very nicely into Blue as a playmaking mid laner, and that kind of gave Blue the spark they needed to be successful.
Yeah, and of course, we're going to talk about the jungle. Dandy, probably the strongest jungler here at the tournament. Crumbs, as a jungler yourself, talk to me about what your thoughts on the player.
Now, Dandy has been in the scene for quite a while, and he's been consistent all throughout. He's been playing Lee Sin, Evelynn, Elise, all the meta champions for a while, and Korea is one of the few regions that's able to bring out Rengar as well. So he's got that in his champion pool, and he's the only player in the entire world that's still playing Evelynn after she got nerfed, which adds quite a bit of a surprise factor.
I just want to see how you or Unstoppable holds up against Pawn, because I think that matchup is going to be very slanted, and as Crum said, Dandy, if it's not already slanted, then Dandy will slant it for them. And then in the bot lane, yeah, sure, Nami is a really good AD carry, but Mata is just complete ranks above SAZF, so it's going to be really tough for EDG to just outmatch their enemies, because in role for role, or lane for lane at least, they're at least tied, if not better.
I do think we are underselling Clear Level a little bit, though. He has incredibly high kill participation. He actually ganks incredibly well. And I know Dandy's a player who likes to get in his opponent's head and try to understand what his opponent is going to do. Maybe that happens here, but I don't want to count out Clear Level. I think he can also get his lanes going and get that early game that I think Edward needs to get here.
Well, I like the fact we've got a little bit of differing opinions on the players. Let's see if it actually shows true in the predictions. Wouldn't be an analyst desk without that prediction game, so I'm going to be putting these guys on the spot, and I want to know legitimately who you think will be winning this matchup. Let's run this one down the line. Crepo, who's going away with the W?
Yeah, pretty much what I said already. Like, White's going to win this. I think lane for lane, as I said before, they're going to outclass their opponents. And then even in terms of just macro level strategy, their vision control will be better. Edward Gaming's had decent vision control, but I mean, White is just, yeah, it's White. You know, they're going to win this.
Crumbs?
I think White is going to win it as well. You know, when it comes to the methodical Korean playstyle compared to a little bit more chaotic, even though EDG is not that chaotic, to the chaotic Chinese style, I pick the brain over the brawn.
Yeah.
Or the brawn.
Yes.
Monte Cristo.
How do I follow that up? No, I got to go with Samsung White as well. I do think EDG is a very strong team, and because if both teams make it out, they'll be placed on opposite sides of the bracket. We're looking at a possible preview of the World Finals here as well, potentially.
So I definitely think Samsung White is going to win this game. I agree with kind of all the comments here where they seem to be a little bit better everywhere. But sometimes the X factor comes in, and you know Edward could make that play. But yes, down the line, I think Samsung White is better strategically and a little bit better in every single role.
Well, you guys at home have heard what our analysts are picking. Let's see who you chose to come away with a victory in this first game. Over on lolesports.com, 80%
没有8比2，好 ，Alright.
The first win. It's heavy favorites for sure. Now, despite the fact Edward Gaming is heading into Worlds as the #1 team from China, they are their own biggest critics as they prepare
中国第一
for
名
the
队伍
competition.
大家都没有这么看好。
到了 EG 季也没算进步吧，随着版本变化，然后自己打法也有一些不同。
这个赛季表现呢，整体来说一般嘛。
最近的一段时间自己打的都很差，这就是最近跟皇族的那一盘吧。我想占一个很容易杀到 UZI 的位置，就被对面的 Zero 勾到了，随时勾到了，被他盲勾，然后直接秒了那波团战输了，然后就导致整盘都输掉了。
我觉得转折点有2个吧，第一个是 RET 上，就第一个杯赛上嘛，然后打赢了 OMG， 还有一个就是打 W1 吧。其实在打完 W1 之后的状态一直都不是特别好，也算是一个下降的一个转折吧。
每输掉比赛，大家都会回去看视频，然后总结，大家会去积极的去沟通。
其实我们队伍现在关键问题还是要交流吧，关键不停地打训练赛，然后通过训练赛来练习一下自己队友和队友之间的默契。
训练的话，因为韩服之前的版本比国服快嘛，现在国服也跟上了嘛，然后就会先去研究一些视频和 BP 的顺序和选择，然后再根据队伍队员的打法和性格、队伍的风格，然后筛选一些英雄和一些打法的元素，然后放在训练赛中。
我们队伍和韩国队伍也训练的挺多的，至少大家打韩国队是心理上是没什么压力的。
今年韩国出现的3个队伍还都是非常强的吧。S4 真正拉开战幕的时候，如何能够在各个队伍集结在一起的时候，找到合适的训练对手，然后同时锻炼队伍、提升队伍，然后又能达到战术上的保密，也是非常重要的。
感觉说起来，如果碰到3星也不是没有赢的机会，感觉也能赢。
挺想和那个韩国的 Save 打一打。
我们当然希望就是说队伍能够有一个比较好的一个成绩嘛。
我们再次站在 S4的舞台上，我们的目标就是冠军。
It's great hearing a team talk about their own practice mentality and focus, and this is a squad in particular that came out quite openly and said, we're going to focus on some of the other teams in our group a little bit less than Samsung White because they want to make playoffs.
Right. I actually think this is actually very smart from Edward Gaming, knowing their sort of group structure where they've got 2 very big favorites. They're happy taking just top 2, making sure they can beat AHQ and Dark Passage, which you don't want to overlook, and then looking at the Group B teams, making sure you're okay for the quarterfinals as well. I think it's a very smart choice. So while they won't look necessarily incredible against White because they're not trying to beat them necessarily, they're going to go far in this tournament.
Well, right. I mean, that's who you don't. If they have any strategies prepared for Samsung White, because of their opposite sides of the bracket when they exit the group, they can save any kind of secrets that they have for later on down the road if they're very confident in beating up on the kind of bottom 2 teams in this group.
Do you think perhaps that White might try to do the same thing, and then they'd be thinking, well, we can just make it out of the top 2, not show our full strength, and then perhaps try to go for that second seed and get an easier time?
That means we're going to see a Blitzcrank.
Well, Crumbs, how difficult is it really to hold back? I mean, you know, we always talk about these pocket pictures, weird and wonderful strategies, but from a playstyle perspective, can you really, control on the world stage and, not give it your all?
在 A 组里面的话，事实上以实力来讲，目前实力来讲 ，White 跟 EDG 确实是比较最强的。对
，they're not really thinking; they're just playing instinctively, right? They already know exactly what to do. So holding back on something that's pretty much hardwired into how you work is pretty difficult.
But I mean, there's a good consensus of what the metagame is right now. They can just play standard metagame and just duke it out against each other and see where their flaws are. That doesn't mean they don't have to reveal any new strategies, any new picks, because there's plenty of champions that are just overly played everywhere. And I think that's what we're going to see the first game.
Well, we are about to find out. Thank you very much, guys. We're going to hand things over to the casters to take us into the game between the top team from China versus the perceived top team from Korea. Guys, take it away.
Thank you very much, Trevor, and let's check out the starting lineups as we get right into this match. I think we're all ready here. We've been waiting an entire season to get to this. On the blue side, it's LPL's Edward Gaming. In the top lane, it is Koro. Jungling is going to be Clear Love. In mid, it's you for Unstoppable.
还是让我来念一下，因为等一下你会听到我声音啊。这边这个 上路部分是 Koro 对上的是 Looper， 那 Jungle 部分是 Clear Love， 也叫做诺言，那对上的是 Dandy。中路的话是 You 或者是叫它 Unstoppable 都可以，对上的是 Pawn。然后 AD 的部分是娜美，对上的是 Amp。然后这个 Support 部分是 FZZF 对上的是这个 FZF 其实就是卷毛啦，所以可能等一下会念它叫卷毛。对上的是 Mata。对，而且这个比赛呢，这一场比赛其实。我个人认为啦，这场比赛重点 重点其实就是要看一下这个中国在中国的这个区域可以打到第1名的这个 EDG 究竟在这个韩国的这个洗礼之下，到底有没有办法能够拿出能不能打出一定的实力，甚至是能够碾压？对，虽然说事实上 EDG 跟事实上在 A 组的比赛里面有 EDG 有 Samsung White 有这个 AHQ， 然后又有这个一个外卡，对于他们来说，其实要拿到这个晋级的资格并不难。好，我们这边直接进到这个 ban pick 的部分，这边 Edward Gaming 这边是选择先 ban 掉这个版本非常强势的亚速，还有这卡萨丁。那 Samsung Y 这边呢是选择 ban 掉图奇雷兹，其实都非常的标准的一个 ban pick。不过在这个版本里面，其实我在赛前其实有讲到，这个牛跟这个茂凯是非常重要的2个 pick。对，因为在于现在这个版本 4.14 的这个刚可以使用纳尔的这个版本啊，听起来使用纳尔怪怪的，可是这个真的就是这个版本是刚使用纳尔的这个版本。其实牛跟这个茂凯还是上路非常爱选的角色，所以这边 Edward Gaming 是选择 ban 掉牛。那这边看着 Samsung Y 会不会选择 ban 掉乖 ban 掉茂凯，还是说他们可能会想要 ban 一些其他的角色？那其实还有很多。对，那因为我对于这个 Edward Gaming 其实这个角色全篇破我是不太熟。好，这边选择 ban 掉了一个珍娜。这边很有趣的是，他这边先选掉 ban 掉珍娜，然后我们这边可以看到 EDG 这边是直接先选到茂凯，这不太意外。这个我们昨天其实有提到说，这个基本上 first pick 一定是会抢上路的。好，那这边 Samsung Y 是紧接着直接选了麒麟，那其实麒麟啊可以玩中，也可以玩这个下路的辅助。那其实我这样乍看之下，我也不太确定他这个麒麟到底是会选择是中路还是辅助。那这边这个 Jungle 部分是选 Dandy， 这边是选择这个版本这个版本的这个 Jungle 3雄之一的卡莉丝。那其他2雄呢，就李欣以及这个伊利斯。所以这边可以看一下 Edward Gaming 这边是选择了不想要把这个瑟雷西放给 Mata， 那这边是选择先选掉瑟雷西，然后还有拿掉这版非常强的这个 ADK Lucian， 然后这边可以看到 Samsung Y 这边是 Amp 是直接Looper 这边是选择的是蓝宝，其实这个蓝宝在这个大赛里面我只看过出1次。对，因为这只角色有个蛮大的一个缺点，就是当他去打一个逆 U 的时候，他其实这只角色比较没有那么的有这个优势。好，那这边 EDG 这边看起来这个 Jungle， 我觉得 Jungle 应该是不会选努努，我这个中路选一个球女算是一个非常稳健选择，可是我觉得 Jungle 可能不会选择一个努努。这边有放李欣，我不知道他们这个是一个可能是挖一个坑，可是我觉得努努配上露西恩并不是一个太优秀的选择，所以这边最后选择是嘉文啊，这不太意外。好，那这边可以 Samsung Y 这边 Mata 辅助的部分呢，看来是要让这个 Pong 去打一个中路的吉令啊。其实 Pong 这个玩家也是一个很有趣的玩家，他是这个 Faker 单杀神之身，专杀 Faker。没有，他其实在中路其实蛮常就是可以抓对方的这个小失误，然后可以去做进一步的这个获得一些优势这样子。所以他本身的圈边破并不是一个很多刺客的一个玩家，所以这边他选择吉林我不太意外。然后这边给让神圣 Y 这边 Mata 最后是选择纳米，其实我蛮意外这边神圣 Y 并没有先抢瑟雷西啊，因为我觉得瑟雷西这个角色对于 Mata 来讲真的是黄袍加身的感觉，可是这边竟然没有先选，是我有一点意外。这边最后选择是这个版本也非常多人选择的这个纳米。那纳米的话，其实我是看比较常看到韩国人选纳米这只角色，像 TSM 的这个唯一韩国人这个 Luxboy， 其实他也是有选择这个纳米好几次过。对，那好，那我们今天这个比赛呢，我们分成 Twitch 跟这个 YouTube 转播，那希望大家都可以到 YouTube 去看有画面的转播，因为其实在这个 YouTube 其实是非常顺的。好，那我们这个其实我们就不太多说的其他部分，我们再稍微注意一下这两边的一个配置。上路部分的话是茂可对上蓝宝，然后中路的部分是球女对上的是吉林。对，球女现在改的是一个新头图，可能大家有点不太习惯，就是一个
我也不知道那怎么说，反正就是一个女的，然后面色苍白的往后回眸一笑这样子，然后可是她回眸一笑的时候呢，脸却又是满脸苍白这样，你也搞不清楚那到底是什么东西。然后jungle 部分的话是嘉文对上是卡利斯，蛮意外的是这边诺言这边并没有选择了这个现代版本最强最夯的3个理性耶利斯嘉文，理性耶利斯卡利斯的其中之一的这个角色，他反而是选择了一个嘉文。那当然嘉文其实在这个版本里面，我个人觉得他还是非常不错的一只角色。然后这边下路的 AD 跟辅助部分可以看到是瑟雷西加上瑟雷西加露西恩对上的是纳米加上崔斯塔纳。那我个人觉得，让 EDG 这边这个卷毛拿到了这个，我又差点想锤石啊，要拿到这个瑟雷西，我觉得个人是觉得是有一点点不太好。对，我觉得，瑟雷西其实，在我们之前看大陆比赛来讲，他们其实对瑟雷西的掌握度都非常非常的不错。不过我觉得神圣外这边敢放这个瑟雷西，一定有他的这个道理在啊。要不然我觉得其实瑟雷西这些角色，个人认为他是仅次于上路茂凯跟牛的一个最 top 的一个选择，因为这些角色虽然说他在几次打脸之后，可是他还是有非常非常强的一个战略意义。但我们就不论说他这个有几个 CC 了，其实大家都很清楚他的这个技能组，所以其实这只角色他在战队的这个运用性是非常非常大的，所以在基本上在高端场或者在战队去做这些大赛啊，其实都是一个非常非常高频率的一个 pick。好，那这边是神圣外跟 EDG 这边。很有趣的是，因为其实蓝宝这些角色，他如果正常的对线的话，其实他并不会有太多的这个问题在。可是当他去被逆 EU 的时候，其实或者是就是去换线的时候，其实他有一个持平上的一个困难。对，所以这边蓝宝反而是希望是走正线。那 Imp 跟 Marta 其实这两个玩家其实也是一个可以说他们在线上的这个处理是非常非常好的，所以他们这边神圣外这边。不考虑去换线，我觉得也是可以理解的。那 EDG 呢，这边也是可以看到他们对自己也是蛮有自信的。你看这个娜美跟这个卷毛的这个下路配合，他们最后是选择相信说这个露西恩加瑟雷西可能可以从这个 Imp 跟 Mara 手上可以拿到一些优势，所以他们这边后来也是选择不换。那我觉得，其实我觉得不换的话，那三圣外其实在下路的部分，我觉得是有一点点，我觉得是比较不好打的一个部分。虽然说现在这个版本的这个崔斯塔纳，其实在的这个降治疗的效果是非常非常优秀啊，可是其实在于在对上这个露西恩加上瑟雷西这个组合来讲，是并不是非常好对线。好，这边是下路是非常非常的推啊，想要把这个线压在对方的这个现在还没有压在塔下。好，这边中路部分是这个麒麟对上的球女，基本上麒麟对上的球女的话，是一个非常有趣的一个组合，就是你炸我，我上盾。然后这个或者是说你要想要炸我就 QW 回来 ，QW 球你就丢个球炸你，然后再把这个球收回来。好，这边的 Danny 这个 gank 是已经有被看到了，那球女这边也是演戏演得非常的真，就是好像有看到有好似没看到的感觉。好，因为这个因为在转圈圈，所以我们可能要稍微降一点画质。其实降画质画质还是很高，所以没什么问题啊。这降画质我猜大概还是有900P 的感觉。好，那这边可以看到两边的 jungle 都各蹲了一次中路，可是在这个 EDG 这边他们有一个这个视野上的一个优势，有注意到这个对方其实已经来到中路这一旁边。下路的话，其实 Imp 跟这个 Maya 他们是两个这个对，其实在前面的这个Precision Show 其实有稍微提到说这个 Mata 跟这个 Imp 的这个关系啊，当然辅助跟 AD 的关系大家都知道是非常非常的这个密切的。好，这边可以看到这个卡莉斯来到了中路的左侧，这边是没有被看到 ，Dandy 这边是出来，应该还是会丢个 W 缓速之后，这没办法再接着其他招，这边射击拉上去之后，这边嘉文其实是在蛮近的一个位置，对这边这个。
感觉是先打一波，然后等之后这个嘉文来 gank 的时候会更方便去做一个击杀。好，这边的嘉文也是现在蹲在这个塔下，准备要随时拉灯笼走出来。那这边上路的部分，这边是 Loper 这边是使用的是一个蓝宝，这边是一个把兵线控在这个塔前的一个位置。可以看到上路的部分，茂凯这边是选择先行回家，然后出了一个多蓝戒还有眼睛。哇，他买眼睛买的非常的多啊，买了一个绿眼，买了一个红眼。大部分在上路其实蛮少看到这样子的。给他买一个绿眼红眼以外呢，他还顺便把他这个免费的眼睛呢换成了这个探测灯。好，这边下路的部分，刚刚这个原本这个嘉文是有在蹲下路，结果后来是选择离开，是没有继续的蹲这边下路。那这边其实我觉得这一场的重点，我觉得还是会在于说这个两边庄口前中期的这个发挥因为其实这两个队伍都有一个很有趣的状况，就是他们的辅助跟他们的这个 jungle 的配合性都算是蛮高的。对，那神圣外还有一个特别的一个优势，就是其实在下路的部分 ，amp 加上 Mata 这个组合，除了已经征战很久了以外，就是他们已经在一起很久以外，其实他们的这个默契来讲 ，amp 是非常非常相信这个 Mata 的一个这个辅助，这样子非常信任，所以。其实信任的结果就是说，他们如果要去打一波，或者去做一些其他这个状况的话，其实对于他们来讲，对于这个神圣外的下路是非常非常的有机会可以打一波的。那我们这里可以看到下路的士兵的部分其实都是非常的均等。那中路的部分 ，Pong 这边是并没有从 Unstoppable 这边获得太多优势。不过其实球女这个在前期我觉得是不太难去打这个麒麟球女这个角色大概是最长青也最这边拉到，不过这边拉到其实大概也是没办法干嘛，因为这已经在塔下了。那我们这边是把这个兵线压到对方塔下。不过这边的士兵也是没有问题，可以看到下路这一波兵这个均等之后是48比47。中路部分这边这个吉林回家之后被逼回家之后，这边选择出了一个水滴，然后这边还顺便应该是要出一个水滴装备的一个出法。好，这边球女的这个士兵是目前是领先将近是14只，这个是一个蛮不错的一个领先。不过对于这个整体经济来讲的话，倒是还好。这个 ADG 在整体经济上面领先了它100块。两边的 jungle 其实在这一波其实都没有做，在前期其实都没有一个 gank， 个人觉得蛮可惜的，因为在一个正一的情况下，这个推塔速度相对来讲就第一个塔倒的速度就不会那么快了。那如果 jungle 没有再去做一个这个很强的 gank， 其实对于我们观众而言，其实是就觉得说他们到底在干嘛？怎么都稳农的感觉。所以这一场其实两边都还是打区域比较保守一点，就是我的感觉是有一点在试水温的感觉，就他们两队其实都是在，就是我也想知道你的实力到底在哪边这种感觉。好，这边上路的部分，茂凯是开启了大绝，直接绑过去。这边 Looper 血量是不太顺利，不过这边靠的这个 Dandy 的这一个帮忙，是说不定有一点机会。大绝缓速下去之后，Dandy 这边这个开了2段 R 进来，就可以看到 Pong 从中路来支援。这边缓速之后有没有办法给这个没有，可惜原本是想要给吉林给炸死的，不过这边好像伤害是差一点。这边3个人在上路可以看到，这边 EDG 是非常非常的果断，是选择直接来吃龙，这是他们基本的一个判断。对，这边花了3只来包抄你的上路这边是直接，这边可以看到，这边 Clear Love 是直接这个很快速的把龙给拿掉，那这边还顺便再掉了一个这个蓝 buff， 这样就是有一点亏了。有收掉对方蓝 buff 那就还好，对，可是其实呢，在整体经济上面来讲的话，这边我觉得个人觉得龙还是比较赚的。好，猫塔这边我蹲在这个草丛里面，这边直接下一个虚弱，这边哇非常的果断，下虚弱之后就可以看到上路这边蓝宝原本要 TP 下来，结果这个 TP 是结果取消了，可以看到路线这边开启了大局，想要把对方给逼退，最后这边是一个很可惜的是，这边 Looper 其实是没有大绝的，蓝宝其实是没有大绝的情况下，他传送下来想要帮忙。对，可是在这边其实算是有点浪费了这个 TP。原本这边下路是想要单抓掉这个对方，可是这边最后还是，很可惜的是被这个路线给逼退。 好，那么下路两边 AD 啊都是已经出了这个这边直接用大绝把对方路线给击退。amp 这边被抓到，哇，这抓的有点糟糕。这边妈的开启了大绝之后，你看到这边娜美这个血量非常低，这边哇妈的凶，妈的这个直接闪现下去，然后直接用一个 W 水波直接带走了这个卢显对不起露西安啊，对，这个可以看到这个妈的其实这个。应该说他现在临场其实感觉起来是没有什么压力的，这非常这个果断，是直接闪现，这个血量也算的非常的这个精准，并没有像是有一些玩家在大赛的时候可能会比较绑手绑脚，在算血方面会去比较保守，这边 Mata 完全是一个非常勇猛的，直接开启大绝之后，这边是直接用普攻以及这个 W 还有闪现直接换掉了对方的 AD carry。那这对神圣 Y 来讲是一个非常不错的一个消息，因为其实在这个 EDG 的这个 AD carry 方面，大家对于这个他们这个 AD 的这个娜美的评价是非常高，对，可以说是这个全世界的数一数二的这个 AD carry， 所以这边可以再从下路这边拿到一杀，其实对于神圣 Y 来讲是一个非常不错的一个消息。好，这边两边 jungle， 老实说，我不想说他们有点酱油，可是他们真的有一点点不知道在，就是其实没有跟得起来是还好。这边 Dandy 是直接大绝开起来，以及 W 缓速，这边才刚说有一点点酱油，这边马上上路来击杀这个 Coral， 这边是抓到一个对方这个回家出来的一个时机，是直接把这个给收掉。你可以看到神圣 Y 在这边这个在经济其实是没有在领先的情况下，他们还是很努力的会去这个靠着这个 jungle 的部分去做一些击杀。对，不过这边可是这个 Ever Gaming 这边在经济上面，事实上，为什么经济好像刚刚经济怎么突然在跳？因为刚刚这个经济其实在 Edward Gaming 这个有一种领先啊，不过这边圣送 Y 是靠了这个2次的 gank 以及这个。其实也没有了，就是靠2次的 gank， 然后加上了这个下路 Mata 这个 play， 是成功的扳回了一点经济。虽然纵使在一场每一路的士兵几乎都没有赢的情况下，不过他们还是有这个经济上一个领先。好，这边是卡莉丝这边先出了一个武速血，蛮有趣的。一般来说，卡莉丝比较少看到出武速血，不过这边这个。看得出来，他有一股这个霸气，是想要把这个其他路给 gank 爆。你看到 Edward Gaming 其实基本上这个 jungle 都是在这个针对在中路以及下路，感觉他是比较照顾这个下路的情况。那上路这边是打起来了 ，Loper 这边大绝是快好，所以他应该是会持续的去做一个骚扰一个动作。这边好，大绝开启，这边是直接把你的路给封住，这边说不定 Loper 有机会没有，这边没有一个闪现，如果有闪现的话，可能就直接直接闪现进去把这个 Coral 直接给杀掉。你看到这个蓝宝在这个上路这个经过2次的一个帮助之后，这边其实现在状况还不错。崔斯塔纳这边是直接 W 下来，纳米这边有打到这一个路线在这边最后是被 Mata 直接的一个 Q 给收掉。Dandy 这边直接进来，这边是 Amp 现在正在弹塔，这边弹了这个好几下之后，最后还是轻松收掉瑟雷西。其实这个下路是蛮令人讶异的，因为其实 Mata 加上 Amp 这个配合远远的超过了大家的至少是我的想象啊。对，这个下路这个娜美是玩家，纳米是角色，娜美其实路线在这边的士兵数是表现的是还不错，可是呢，在于在这个对线的过程当中，其实有蛮多时间都是直接被抓掉，有点可惜。这边可以看到 Amp 是直接很凶下来，然后 Mata 是一个非常远的一个大绝，有成功喊到纳米。对娜美，还是最后自己还是讲错。好，瑟雷西这边开了招，这边中路这边是一个遭遇战，这边可以看到这个吉林是遇到太多人，像瑟雷西这边是拉了一个球女上来，这边应该丹迪最后还是要死掉。所以这边是一个4打2的情况，蓝宝这边来支援，可是很可惜的是没有办法能够这个支援到这个自己家队友。这边是一个2杀，让球女队赚到2杀。
对，其实这个要稍微再看一下 replay 会比较准。哦，这边是一个 EQ 串烧，刚好串到2次，然后这边 Pawn 是非常非常快的，是连续的 CC 被解决掉，然后这边球女是闪现的，想要拉球把这个 Dandy 也收掉，可是有一点点的可惜是没有把这个卡莉丝给卷进来，最后是靠着瑟雷西最后才把这个卡莉丝给解决掉。中路的部分，刚刚趁着这一波这个战乱，然后也把这个卢锡安叫上来，直接来把这个把中路塔给收掉。这边是 Looper 想要来试试看能不能单杀这个 Koro， 可是这边呢，很不巧，这个纳米跟这个讲错纳美跟又还有讲纳美跟这个也是刚好是在这边。其实他们刚刚从中路那一波推塔之后，他们就开始往上路的这个外塔去走。对，然后这边神兽外在趁着对方拿掉上塔，是一个上塔对上龙的一个交换，是非常非常的，其实这是一个5-5开的一个结果啦，就是上塔换龙，只是可惜 Looper 这边是有被抓掉。可是以 Looper 的这个成长啊，其实对于 EDG 的后排还是非常非常的危险，因为蓝宝其实是这只角色如果能够正常的成长，他出了这个出了面具，出了法穿鞋，然后接下来可能再补一个沙漏，接下来这个伤害是非常非常恶心的，所以其实对于这个 EDG 的后排来讲，其实要小心这个蓝宝的这个伤害，尤其在中期，尤其是类似像下一只龙这种情况，可能中期的这种龙战都非常非常有可能会被蓝宝这个大绝所影响到。好，球女其实是蛮肥的。不过这边刚刚这个吉林也是很努力的把这个吃兵术给挽回，中塔掉了。不过这边这个吃兵术并没有说这个落后太多。崔斯塔纳这边是一个电刀先，然后再来出一个这个 BF， 其实他是先 BF， 然后再出电刀。其实现在蛮多玩家会去先走一个电刀，现在大部分玩家反而是不走一个红双。那我想这个理由可能就跟这个其实有蛮多的关系啊。当然这个我个人是比较偏向这是喜好问题，可是自从越来越多玩家都开始变电刀流的时候，你就开始想为什么啊？电刀其实带的是一个这个魔法伤害，所以等于说是有一个混伤的效果。那你说混伤好在哪？混伤到底是什么？混伤就是说你这一角是有一个物理，也有一个魔法伤害。因为现在天赋其实点到最2190这个天赋里面，其实21点到底的话，它其实是有一个这个6%的法穿跟6%的魔穿，所以其实对于这个符文，对于这个天赋来说，其实你玩一个混伤角色是会比较划算的啊。对，就如果你是玩像葛雷夫纯 AD 的角色的话，那其实是有一点点吃亏的。那吃亏的点并不是在于说，葛雷夫怎么样，而是在于说，他有一个法穿，可是其实你完全没有用到这样子。对，所以这个其实有些玩家开始会走一个电刀的一个风格。那当然电刀当然还有它本身的这个优势，就是在于它比较便宜，它比红双来的便宜一些。他给的这个跑速也是比较高。好，胖这边在中路是开心洗兵，这是麒麟的一个标准起手持兵法，前排放一个，后排放一个，然后这个前排用普攻把普攻掉。Amp 在这个对方下路也在游走的情况下，他也是开始到各处去做一个吃兵的动作。对，所以其实这一场的风向反而是比较 solo Q 一点，比较没有那么的像是这个打战队的感觉。因为第一个没有换线，第二个其实除了那个龙的这个组织性啊，就是会去做一个很快速的吃龙这些组织性来说，其实感觉起来这两队目前来说，其实都还好，感觉就是一个陈胜外的下路默契非常好的一个对决的感觉。对，这边 Amp 来到上路是把这个塔给推掉。这边是蛮有趣的是 Amp 在上路这么久啊，其实ET 区这边反而是没有任何一个人去来做一个这个要去击杀他，或者是去试着要把线给推回去的情况。好，这边神送外，其实在中路这边麒麟渐渐成长起来的情况下，对于 EDG 这边是绝对是非常不好打的，因为在这个组合里面，我们可以看到有麒麟配上崔斯塔纳还有卡莉丝，卡莉丝在这个版本里面这个伤害其实是还是非常不错的。虽然说在之前的版本里面有作为一个打点，可是其实在这个版本里面它的这个
伤害依旧是算是专稿里面是不错的，所以如果他有一个正常的一个这个成长，比如说他现在出了这个蜥蜴长老，然后又出了这个七魔剑，之后可能上1337或者直接上耳语都有可能。其实这个成长算是对于这个卡莉丝来讲是非常非常不错的，他在中后期的这个收头能力也是绝对是非常好的，尤其配上麒麟就不太，以前的话可能会配上像露露这种保这种刺客型的角色，或者是保后排的角色。可是，在这一场的话，他们这边是选择是麒麟跟这个纳米的反开。那好，这边这个中路可以看到这个 EDG 是狙击过来，这边龙还剩下1分钟即将要出来，所以这边感觉是比较提早去做一个不演的一个动作。这边是粉眼是非常。其实这个版本啊，其实应该讲说 S4其实是这个视野改动的第一个大赛，你可能这样讲有点听不懂。就是第3季的时候，大家还是要带 Oracle， 还是要带先知要继续亲眼。可是第4季呢，这个时候已经变成你可能要在这个弹照灯去做一个亲眼动作。这边蛮有趣的，神圣 Y 这边是非常非常有信心派 Imp 一个人去做分推，在做下路分推。可是 EDG 这边是被耍团团转，他在中路逼退了这个麒麟塔。因为麒麟刚刚是被路线大约是轰你一波，然后这个血量这边哇这个被抓到，可是这边还是有一只瑟雷西的直接救援。这边的话可能可以导致这个神圣 Y 是可以轻松拿掉这一只龙，因为一个中路它没有这个一个中路，然后它血量不太够，这其实是蛮要命的，所以这边神圣 Y 应该是可以轻松拿掉这一条龙。胖王这边是自己拿了这个蓝 buff 之后来帮忙做掉这条龙，可以看到这个神圣 Y 这边是非常能够去抓到对方的落单或对方的一个小失误去做一个进攻，对。这也可以一再证明神圣 Y 其实在对于视野方面的掌控是非常非常好的。相对于这个 EDG 可以看到，EDG 其实并没有对于这个视野方面去做一个非常非常扎实的一个这个扫眼啊，或者是去插眼在这个一些比较重要的位置，这有点可惜。好，这边是一个很有趣的，这边看了是没有人，该不会要直接，这感觉不会要直接做龙，这是要蹲人的感觉。这边应该是要直接蹲，我觉得这不太。马塔这边也是很聪明的，就是感觉好像有点危险。好，这边看这个 EDG 到底要蹲多久？因为其实这个神圣 Y 在这个期间其实赚了不少的钱，对，尤其这个 Amp 其实偷偷的赚了很多的钱这样子。好，Dandy 这边想要亲眼，可是这个插眼下就立马发现这下面一大堆人，纳米这边直接开大绝，想要这个直接来做一个 B 站。这个蓝宝也是同样是下大绝，可以让玛塔这边一个 Q B 掉这个闪现，然后这边只剩下这个树人一个人在这个墙的隔壁去做一个这个弹。这边这个球女这个大绝，然后这边看麒麟这边这个大绝麒麟这大绝还没有放下去，这边是一个对于神圣 Y 来讲是一个非常非常好的一个位置，可以看到这边 Amp 是直接轻松的收掉了3个人头，其实这个位置是对于那个神圣 Y 来讲是一个非常非常好的位置，对，因为他们这个有这个蓝宝是直接在你开口直接去做一个吸的一个直接去做一个这个烧的一个动作，然后这个球女大绝也在蛮早时间就已经开掉了，所以对于说他们进窄口，对于这个神圣 Y 要进窄口，其实对他们来讲是不太难的，因为你球女大绝已经缴掉，那我就不太需要怕说，我们全部人都被挤进去，所以这边 RMP 这边是能够轻松收掉了一堆人，靠这个 W 跳也就收掉了这个非常多人拿到一个 Ace。这边神圣 Y 是比想象中的打得还轻松啊！这个 Amp 在这一场的表现可以看到503的一个战绩，非常非常的吓人，而且在23分钟，其实在20分钟他也就已经拿出了2件大装。其实纳米这个大绝其实下的是蛮有趣的，对。然后这边是茂凯我觉得茂凯被
被隔开是一个致命伤，然后再来是球女这个大绝只有大到一个人也是一个致命伤，然后这边Mata 虚弱套下去，这边搞得 Clear Love 也没什么输出可言。有点可惜啊，真的有点可惜，因为其实我觉得纳米这个大绝是应该说他决定的很，我是觉得这个大绝是有讨论的空间呐，就是对，可是以结果来看的话，妈这个大绝打得非常的好，就是他虽然在一个很远的距离，很偏的距离，可是他依旧大到了3只，对。可是我觉得这个可能归咎于说茂凯的一个撤退的失误啊。这边最后还是逼掉了这个麒麟的大绝，不过麒麟这边是直接瞬间是被这个路线给收掉。路线这边采取的是一个1337上一个妖梦鬼刀配上一个无尽之刃的一个出法。这个出法的话，在这个时间点会非常非常痛。这个讲错，无尽之刃的这个暴击，加上这个妖梦鬼刀给的一个20%的物理穿透，其实在这个时间点，这个路线尤其打后排会非常非常的痛，这样。好，那可以看到这边两边的经济在靠着一个巴龙，其实有蛮明显的一个拉锯，这边已经差到将近是8K 在这个时间点上面已经将近是可以说是可以说大概是有到2成啊20%，所以其实是蛮多的。那也可以看到 Amp 其实在这一场的成长是非常非常的好的，反而就变成说像麒麟刚刚在下路死掉，感觉好像没有什么感觉，有点在那种 solo kill 的 feel， 就是他只是被单抓而已，就不会觉得说怎么会被单抓呢这样子的感觉。好，但是麒麟回家补出了这个帽子以及这个捡 CD 球，我不确定是现在补的还是刚刚补的。这边 AD 的部分可以看崔斯塔纳也是选择带这个蓝色的这个 CV 的这个饰品。那其实这个饰品，其实应该说这个 AD 带这个饰品其实已经不是新闻了，所以这妈的是被大家卷进来之后，最后还是被这个缓速没有这个射雷，其实刚刚没有拉到是蛮有趣的，所以这个最后还是被这个妈的给逃走，有点可惜。好，这边崔斯塔纳是出了嗜血者，蛮有趣的，因为正常来讲这个时间点，他其实有无尽加上电刀都差不多，可是他因为这个经济实在是太好，这边获得无尽又加电刀。发现这个时间点好像不太需要出一个这个耳语去穿对方，所以这边他直接选择嗜血者去做一个强烈的吸血以及这个非常高这边Coro 这边是最后还是缴掉了这个闪现不对不起，缴到了这个传送。好，这边 Pong 是被抓到了，不过应该可以靠这些大绝复活。不过这边其实娜美的这个伤害非常的高，所以他可能应该是走不了了。这边是路线大绝直接扫下去，这个手跑出好快。这边球女花了这个一个闪现，加上一个这个对，就一个闪现而已。这边 Looper 是直接用闪现躲掉这个嘉文的这个罗马竞技场，这个 Looper 是生气的，直接火了回来，直接回来直接把这个球女给烧掉。哇，其实这个 play 还蛮这个精彩的。这边卡莉斯直接进场，不过这边其实应该只是推到中路就差不多可以。没有，这边兵线其实没有太进来，因为刚刚的下路其实有蛮多的这个人，其实这个中路是可以压进去，可是这兵线不太给力，没有办法能够把这波兵给压进去。好，那这边这个陈松外在这一波中推之后。其实也不算中推啊，就是中路一波小小的这个推进之后，是选择了直接来拿龙。对，这因为现在 Jungle 在，而且 AD 很飞的情况下，这个拿龙是非常轻松的。那 Imp 也是非常的悠游自在的飘来飘去啊，感觉他这场是非常没有压力的在发挥。好，这边这个辅助206，然后这个 Amp 的崔斯塔纳503，卡莉斯这边这个是直接上了耳语。好，这边可以看到茂凯目前这个还没有把这个冰心给出来，可是这个时间点他可能会改出蓝盾也说不定，因为以对方 AD 的这个肥度，其实他如果出个冰心或许有点晚了。但也知道这次塔纳本身其实是有这个加攻速的技能啊。
好，露西恩这边是出了一把 BF 之后又出了一个负极斗篷。那就是非常害怕这个蓝宝这个伤害，蓝宝现在已经是一个沙漏跟一个这个离岸组的折磨，这是对后排的影响力非常非常大。对，然后接下来他这边出了一个这个负极斗篷，那应该是会出神元权杖，我不一定。好 ，Loper 这边再被抓到，哇，有点可惜。一看到这个瑟雷西奇在这一场其实是提供了 EDG 这边蛮多的 kill，其实就是我不太理解的一个地方，就是为什么他会放瑟雷西，因为其实我觉得瑟雷西对于无论你是要单抓，或是对于在打一些拉锯战啊，或者是说一些很多状况来说，瑟雷西都是一支非常好用的角色。无论是救人，无论是作为一个开战另类的开战，其实瑟雷西不太算是一个强烈的开战，就是其实瑟雷西都有一个非常好的一个效果，所以这边把瑟雷西放掉，我觉得是下一场哇，这个 Amp 是真的是把它当单排在玩，你看这边是直接弹塔，然后大绝直接把对方直接给喷走，然后直接硬是把这个塔给收掉。这边 Amp 又莫名其妙拿到一座塔，哎，这很有趣。这边 EDG 感觉很像小孩子被玩这样，就是他只能拿到一些小糖吃，例如说有人这个被单抓这样子，射一起勾到一只，然后他确定是落单，他才能杀到人。可是在这个神兽外，在大局上面，无论是巴龙，无论是龙，无论是塔数，其实都是非常非常巨幅的一个领先。就感觉是把 EDG 这边是当这个小孩在玩的感觉。好，这边两边的这个 AD 其实都换了这个 CV 的这个不是吊饰，这个小饰品，我也不太知道它的这个真正名称到底叫做什么。这边两边都在中路集结，虽然比数是一个7-11的一个看起来是不太大一个差距，可是其实在这个经济上面，我们可以看到已经将近10K 的一个差距。抱歉，因为是一个人转播，我喝水这个实况一定是安静的。我在想，就是两三个人转播的时候，其实以前我们在2-3个转播的时候就一定会示意说，哦，我要喝个水，然后就另外一个人就可能就继续巴拉巴拉巴拉，或者他在讲的很开心的时候，我就偷喝个水，关个麦偷喝个水，然后开麦继续再讲这样。可是一个人讲就有一个缺点，就是很容易口渴，而且口渴的时候我一定你们可能都会听得到我喝水的声音，这样子，我这真的没有办法，我也没有办法改善这个部分，因为其实我觉得我一个人这样子应该就够了，这样。好，这边我们要回到比赛部分，这茂凯是看了还是不死心的选择要出冰心，没有要走一个这个蓝盾。因为我觉得其实他这一场可能要直接出蓝盾啊，去增加一个血量，还有这个弹力。也这边他还是选择了出一个这个冰心。冰心本身没有提供血量 ，Clear Love 这边是被抓到，不过这边应该是还是可以逃走吧。然后这边是最后还是缴了一个闪现，这个才躲过这个对方一大堆人的追击。这边这边球女又是一个空打，这边碰被抓到的时候，其实第一时间对方没有这个球女并没有脚大，对，可是在他脚大的时候，这边最后是被碰给闪现掉。这边这个位置对神松外是有一点尴尬，所以纳米这边是直接选择开战。这边这个路线最后是闪现直接躲开。对，这边这个 Koro 又是在一个很尴尬的位置，为什么总是会在一些很奇怪的位置出现呢？对，刚刚这个其实开战是开得非常的漂亮，就是我知道说我们现在这个状况，这个位置，因为刚刚其实麒麟一直在朝这个巴龙的正右侧，所以对他们来讲是不太好打的一个位置，就是他们也需要这个麒麟进来，可是那个时候其实茂凯也是不断的在那个草丛左右晃来晃去，所以非常讨厌。所以这边可以看到纳米这边是选择玛塔这边是直接开战，直接把对方直接给逼退，然后收掉了这只茂凯之后呢，选择回家撤退这样。不是刚刚那个很可爱敲了一下巴龙，希望如果这个你们继续轻演的话，这个巴龙就会打最近的这个目标。好，这个因为刚好有这时间可以喘息，所以我们再稍微快速的说一下，因为我们这个比赛其实同时在这个 Touch TV 以及这个YouTube 转播。那你在 YouTube 看的人有画面，在 Touch TV 看的人是没有画面，所以我还是强烈建议你可以到一家的YouTube 去看一个有画面的比赛，因为在 Touch TV 如果有附画面的话是会被 ban 台的， 所以希望大家可以到这个 YouTube 去做一个支持。好，这边卡莉丝这边出了一个女妖，这个女妖面上来挡这个对方各种奇怪的 CCG， 主要还是挡这个瑟雷西，因为其实这个瑟雷西拉到预知，其实真的非常容易去直接击杀掉该名角色。好，这边这个崔斯塔纳是在上坡打，这个上坡有一个这个角的位置，其实是可以直接远距离的 AD 其实都是可以直接从那边打的。然后这边是 Dandy 是成功的把这个 buff 给收掉之后，直接是冲进去，直接冲到后排，再把秋米给解决掉。哇，这个拿到马上巴龙 buff 的这个情况下，这边可以看到，这边崔斯塔纳是已经先被收掉，然后这边露西恩陆先这个会战是几乎是完全的输出，虽然说这个卡莉斯已经先把球女收掉，可是这一个会战里边，你可以看到陆先的这个输出是有起来的，所以对于这个神圣外的没有成功的把这个崔斯塔纳复活，其实是有点糟糕的一件事情。对，这边碰是不是再看一次这个会战？因为这神圣外是没有把这个崔斯塔纳复活，是蛮糟糕的。崔斯塔纳这边是直接 W 跳下来，这边被拉到之后是瞬间被解决掉，是因为太快了。其实崔斯塔纳刚刚其实想要讲的就是，我一般来说我不太建议大家在巴龙上坡打巴龙，除非你是偷偷打。什么叫偷偷打？偷偷打意思就是说，这个可能瑟雷西可能拉一只从上坡进去，就是他可能觉得外面有布视野，可是巴龙内圈没有布视野，那可能就是吊钢丝进去的感觉，就是大家都是飞檐走壁的，然后想要用自己的位移技这样进去，就是除非你是偷偷打，或者是说你只是想靠一下巴龙，然后爽一下，对，要不然其实我还是蛮建议说，如果你要打巴龙，就是在下坡打，不要在这个上坡打，虽然很可爱很萌，可是其实如果接下来会有会战发生的话，你就必须要找一个技能下坡，或者是说你的位置可能就很容易被切开，像刚刚 IMP 的位置其实就不是太好，他从右边这样跳下来是想说看可以顺便杀到一个人，可是他玩得太开心了，所以这边麒麟是没办法及时的复活到。这就是一个这其实就是刚刚那个会战一个最大一个重点，就是第一个麒麟复活不到，第二个你站的位置其实是有一点鲁莽的一个位置啊。这边 Amp 是有一点这个打有点太开心了一点。对，我通常犯错都犯一次，大概就不会再犯了，所以这时候 Y 这边是选择去做一个稳健一个推塔。那同时呢，经济的部分在刚刚输的这个会战之后，是因为有拿到巴龙，所以这个经济目前来讲还是维持着一定的这个差距。那崔斯塔纳这边的话，看起来是应该会出个女妖，其他这边出个女妖或 GA 其实都是可以的，因为 GA 的话就可以配合吉林再次更多的复活这样。这个就是我今天一直想说他怎么没有出现。他说这个 Windows XP 应该赶快要跑出来了吧？就一直没有出现，我已经开了2个小时了，他一直不出现，不知道为什么。因为他如果出现后，我才能把它移开来，他就应该就不会再出现。这边刚刚蓝宝是回家补的一个虚空杖，反而不是补的一个这个深渊之杖。其实深渊真的越来越少人出了。有没有选择直接补虚空，直接做一个很有效的趴兽穿透？然后这边可以看卡莉丝这边是魔提斯深渊，这边还是要小心一点。这个露西恩的输出还是依旧非常的高的，对他本身这个技能加上这个被动，其实可以打出非常可怕的一个伤害。然后这边纳米的话，一下纳米一下纳美，所以后来我尽量都练露西恩了。这个纳米的话，这边其实可以看到这个蘑菇已经出来了，所以如果被拉到人，可以是立马可以解掉。好，这边这个其实之前有人就问我说，这个为什么他们要带蓝色饰品啊？一方面其实是在蓝色饰品弱在哪边？弱在他在前期的时候，他的这个维持的时间不长，然后距离又短，所以当他在升级之后，他其实是有他一定的价值在的。那价值其实就是他优点，可以免于 face check 去做一些很鲁莽的插眼，或者是说
去走到一个很危险的位置。所以其实来说，我觉得一个队伍里面啊，有一个这个蓝色这个CB 的这个物品，我觉得是非常非常好的。对，对，跪求这个蓝色饰品的中文，真的，我真的搞不清楚这个蓝色饰品的中文。其实我还有很多中文名称，我真的都不知道它到底叫什么鬼名字。好，这边是这边是开进来了，不过这边球女大绝只大到一个人。这边的卡莉丝其实在很早就吃掉了这个麒麟的这个一个哇，这边崔斯塔纳直接鲁莽 W 进场，这边又被抓掉。对，不过这边在死前的时候是有带走这个这是带走的一个露西安，还算 OK。因为如果他是这个 die for nothing 的话，那就有点惨了。好，这边这个这茂凯是被这个一阵乱烧给烧掉，这个火烧森林是把茂凯这边直接给解决掉。这边胖子丢了一个这个缓速以及炸弹，想要来炸，哇，这个伤害有够高。不过这边最后麒麟是及时的用 R 把自己给复活。可以看到 Looper 这边是从这个家里再传送出来，哇，这个真的是非常非常忙碌啊。Looper 其实现在伤害非常高，这边射击又拉到一只，可这一次拉到的话，其实就只能去做一个小小的骚扰。对，其实这个会战的话，可以看到 Amp 还是非常非常的，我觉得是还是有点太 aggressive 一点，就是太不知道 aggressive 中文怎么，反正就是可能有点太激进了一点。对，其实他大可以不必这样去 W 进去，然后。对，因为他刚刚 W 进去还知错，然后还就是有闪现回来这样。那球女这个大绝其实有点可惜，然后这边麒麟下给卡莉丝大绝有一点点早，在卡莉丝还将近还有1000血量的时候下去了，然后崔斯塔纳这个想逃走也是来不及。我觉得有点可惜啊，因为其实崔斯塔纳其实现在非常非常肥，他基本上稳稳的打，稳稳的输出。其实他是打一个前排，他都还是可以做一个非常疯狂的输出。所以我觉得在现在这个状况，其实真的没有必要。哇，这边是被看到，这边刚刚插一个眼，在 Mata 可以看到他们对于视野的掌控，还有这个第六感是非常非常的好。这个位置他们就知道说这一定会有人的，所以这边是插了眼，又用这个蓝色这个饰品去找了一下，用这个 CV 找了一下，我只能讲它叫 CV 了，要不然我们等一下这个有机会再来查。对，这边是没有开龙，可能有上一次这个，因为其实这个在蓝方的家里是兵有推进去的。不过在神圣外这个龙其实应该吃蛮快的情况下，也随时可以开，也随时可以抽离。因为其实我觉得神圣外不会选择打，因为其实他们这边已经是一个优势的情况，你选择打龙是有可能会把优势送掉。这个，他们其实是依靠了 Amp 的一个输出去打龙啊，所以我觉得没有必要去打龙。我觉得逼龙就可以了，例如说去推塔，或者是把视野再布出去，让这个视野去做一点压制，就是用视野去压制对方，对，让对方没有不敢去布视野，或者是说要小心翼翼的去探巴龙，这样子，我觉得这个会是神圣外比较好的一个战略，所以把兵线先推出去是必须的。神圣外这边是果断来推上路，然后你可以看到 EDG 这边做出一个很奇怪的决定，他们竟然亮了巴龙。好，这边没有，这边 EDG 是选择了回家。哇，那个神圣外这边是爽赚一塔加上一个水晶兵这边就是一个视野不足够的情况下，然后被神圣外这边一个这样 Looper 这边被抓到，不过 Looper 这边有惊人，所以他应该是不会先被麒麟下大绝。这边惊人之后，可以看到这边好，这边 Looper 其实 Looper 应该是不会吃一个麒麟的大绝，可是最后还是给他的麒麟的大绝，我不太理解。因为其实在这个队伍当中，其实崔斯塔纳跟卡莉丝是比较需要麒麟的大绝的。不过最后 Looper 这边还是因为在这个自己队友这个疯狂输出下是有成功的活着，所以这边恭喜 Samsung White 是一个非常轻松的一个胜利。我觉得这个可以看到下路 Amp 跟 Mata 好像感觉上对线打起来是非常轻松写意的，对。然后在中路的部分 ，Palm 其实并没有输太多，而且在中后期吃兵数也赶上，然后水滴也叠出了效果来，所以这个根本就没有什么太大一个问题。那上路 Looper 有 Dandy 的不断来做一个支援，其实可以看到这个Samsung White 在这一场其实除了 Amp 有一些太冲动的举动，其实Samsung White是在这一场的风向掌握上是非常的好，基本上是把这个这个 EDG 是轻松带着走。可以看到韩国队伍还是强，直接把这个中国队伍直接给你要说碾杀掉，这一场真的有一点点啊，这真的有一点点。好，我们来稍微听一下他们的现场转播。
That's one of the big reasons they can never seem to defeat their sister team Samsung Blue, because even if they can get an early lead, sometimes they have trouble making decisions late in the game. That's the main reason that game stretched for so long. EDG was pushing them into uncomfortable situations, and yeah, like you said, a couple of team fights switched the wrong way, and we have ourselves a massive comeback and a completely different story right now.
Wavering back and forth on that Baron, but the man right there, these two, I should say, the early game duo lane from Imp and Mata coming out.
Amp 跟 Mata 在这条路线是打得非常好。
Imp, honestly, because it was all about that one jump, that one crazy leap, and he was at 505, I believe, at the time when leaping in, a little bit overconfident, and this is something they've talked about coming into this World Championship. We need to get him in check for the next match.
A little bit overconfident is a pretty big understatement right there. That was absolute insanity, but it's because he overperformed expectations so heavily at the start of the game, and ultimately it did not decide the game against them. Name was able to get back in the game because of that mistake, but the way they were able to shut him down and make the game really all about you and maybe ClearLove trying to find the right fights is exactly what White wanted to do.
EDG didn't get much out of the early game, but a lot of wards swept. And we saw how far behind ClearLove was throughout the game, and then trying to initiate, and it was very off with him and Koro. One would try to get back out, and Koro would be the guy diving in, and it just didn't seem to work out in the fights the way they wanted.
And something that none of us really expected coming into this match was the simple fact that Rumble was played in the top lane by Looper. That caught all of us off guard with our stats.
Yeah, right off the bat, they've been preparing to, obviously. Samsung White wants to win this group.
Absolutely. So right now, we're actually going to throw it over to the guys at the analyst desk for a breakdown on Samsung White's win.
Thank you very much, guys. And right at the end of the conversation, they're bringing up the picks and bans. Looper playing Rumble, seeing the Zillion, seeing the Nami coming out. Samsung White surprising us a little bit in picks and bans, but they made it work at the end of the game. Monty, what's your take?
Well, Rumble was a pick that we saw late in the regionals in Korea from SK Telecom, and it was a game that they beat Najin White Shield with in the finals. And coming into these picks and bans, we really are looking at two very quintessential team compositions for both of these teams. We've got that hyper tank up in the top lane for EDG, that emphasis on AoE and team fighting with the Jarvan in the jungle, and then on the other side of the coin, we have actually an extremely difficult composition to play from Samsung White, because we're dealing with a comp that requires a massive early game lead. Rumble's the champion that you have a lot of early dragon control over, and EDG played well against it. In fact, they kind of baited them into the pit and then rushed mid lane, taking towers, avoiding the Rumble ult whenever possible in the early game.
像球女大的其实也下的蛮多都有一点状况的。
If you have this composition that we see Samsung White running, you need that large lead. You need that big buffer. And not only that, but you need pretty much perfect team fighting because you're very squishy. You're super reliant on the Zillion pick to get the ult off in order to get the resets rolling with Tristana and Kha'Zix. So requires good Zhonya's use from the Rumble as well. And of course, if we look at the pick and ban phase, early Zillion pick, it's a flex pick, although typically White plays it in mid, and then they have that counter pick on support with the Nami.
Especially given how the pick and ban phase was going, it was pretty telegraphed that Zillion was going to end up going mid lane because they have the Rumble that they definitely want to match against Maokai. But then Zillion Tristana could absolutely just lose against Lucian Thresh, so they needed Nami as a kind of pick support, and it worked for them.
But didn't you feel that Tristana Nami should also lose to Lucian Thresh? What was your take on the head-to-head matchup and how that played out?
Yeah, that's something I really want to point out. How EDG started basically at their bot lane side with their jungler, which set their Battleland even farther behind. So they had to leash, and then they played against Imp and Mata, who didn't leash with Tristana and Nami. What ended up happening was the early levels are so crucial in this matchup. They allowed Tristana to just push early and sustain up and just whittle them down, as well as Thresh started with a ward and 2 potions. So every single point of that matchup where Thresh and Lucian could just abuse Nami Tristana was just not allowed to by EDG. And at the same time, those weird jungle starts influence the jungle as well.
And you speak about the bot lane matchup. The matchup of Kha'Zix versus Jarvan with the Zillion passive makes it even more volatile. And we saw Jarvan struggle to get early ganks, and he fell behind in farm, while Kha'Zix was able to pick up some of the scraps from the mid lane. He built up a CS lead and then eventually managed to camp top lane. In another volatile matchup, when you have Rumble, a champion that if he gets really far ahead of whatever opponent he's against, he's going to be able to do just massive amounts of damage. And these champions are so reliant in their team comp that when you get them really far ahead and shut down the main tank for EDG, then the team fights has become that much easier.
I want to get back to that bottom lane point, though, Karpo was talking about a little bit, because even though they did start out with the ward, they started out with the leash, by the 3rd or 4th wave, we were equal CS. And I know you're talking about the fact that Lucian should be ahead in CS, and it should be a winning matchup, not an equal one. But the point is, we got to a point where the matchup was at least equal, which is reasonable.
But it's too late.
It's not
it's
sure, but
purely opportunity cost. You should already be so far ahead in that match.
I know you're talking about being ahead. What I'm going to talk about, though, is the fact that
他们这边强调一个很重要的点，就是 Lucian 跟 Thresh 应该是可以爽打下路的。
died in 2v2s in a winning lane matchup multiple times, and that is very unforgivable for EDG.
I don't think these lanes are equal, but you get Zillion passive like that. It makes a huge. You're always gonna not get level 2 first, level 3.
I like that point. Let's move on. One second.
这个很大重点就是麒麟这个 pick， 因为麒麟让卡莉丝在 jungle 区提早先升上6等，让下路也能够一直维持一个优势。
Explain one of the strategic plays that you particularly liked.
Okay, so let's pull up the replay, and we're going to start out with it, pause for a little bit. This is basically one of the big reasons Samsung White is a better team than Edward Gaming. So what you see right here is the fact that Name has a free road to split push the bottom lane. Now, we had seen Imp do this with impunity later on and get down to an inhibitor turret. There's enough wards to see Dandy if you watch that minimap. Name can split push here completely safely. Instead, he's going to give this up. Samsung White dictates and goes mid lane, and Edward Gaming the entire time is playing second fiddle and trying to play follow-up here. So roll the clip out. We're going to run it fairly fast overall just to watch the map movements, but Samsung White is actually first here. The mid laner Orianna is actually killing Wraith instead of showing up to this turret, and so this goes down for free. And this is, again, kind of silly. So finally the Lucian makes his way in, but Imp's already hitting top lane. Imp is already ready to split push the top lane, push a wave in. EDG just now sees it, just now clears the wards, and so Imp says, oh, now they're coming top lane. I can leave very easily. Is actually able to create the pressure on these turrets. And at the very end, what happens is you've got the Maokai trying to hold the top lane against this Tristana push, and Rumble's already getting the wave bottom. Tristana had already cleared the wave top. They've already killed the turret mid. So we actually had SSW take all 3 lanes, something useful in all 3 lanes, and Edward was like, oh shoot, go mid, oh shoot, go top, and they're just behind the entire time.
Reactionary.
And a big part of that too.
我们这边有提到，我刚刚也其实有在讲的，其实这一场，被牵着鼻子走了。EDG 其实并没有表现得非常的好，尤其在这个兵线情况下，或许是跟他们角色有点关系，可是他们其实一直在被推兵线。
They're not looking for those early team fights. They're there to push the waves, to have the split push, and if necessary, group around the Rumble.
他认为崔斯塔纳伸出电刀是为了推兵线。
To get that global gold.
而不是先出无尽之刃去做一个输出。
We've seen a big team fight following this where Samsung White delay aced Edward Gaming, got themselves a Baron. Then they sort of fiddled about for a while. A few misplays from Imp getting caught out, stalled the game out maybe a little longer than it needed to. Do we feel that Edward Gaming, if they had made slightly better decisions in the early game, maybe a different AD carrier, Cogmore, something that could scale more, could they have done better against Samsung White? Because there were some chinks in the Samsung White armor. Freak, I see you excited.
So I'm really excited about this because I looked at the post-game screen. Name had the highest damage to champions in the game. He was a 4-4-3 Lucian. We had a 9-2-7 Tristana. We had a big Rumble. Name still found a way to deal more damage than every other player in the game. So he lost, there's so many things going against him, yet he still managed to do more damage. So this is a very big factor that if EDG can get out of the early game, something they've even struggled with in China itself, let alone internationally,
因为他说
then
的
they're
很
going
有
to
趣
look
的
better.
是
But it's been a
虽然 EDG 这边输了，
repeated
可是
road
他
of
们
the
的
early
AD
game
carry
wins.
娜美
Final
还
Fantasy
是一个
the
全
biggest
场数
factor
最高
was
的
the
一个角
jungle
色。
matchup. Like Jarvan fell so far behind, and he ended up with just a welfare build. While you have Kha'Zix is going full damage, Rumble got so far ahead, and Jarvan just not able to do anything. Jarvan is all in. Either you win or you lose really hard.
Just the last point yet again about the early game. I agree with Freak. If you play around your AD carry, don't let him leash in a winning matchup, and then the other opposite side doesn't leash, and then all your advantage you literally throw away already, and you play from behind level 1. Especially when you have a tank top, just leave that tank alone. Even late game, he can just flash in and Twisted Advance, and that's enough. That's what Maokai needs to do. If your AD carry is so good at dealing damage in teamfights, then that should be enough. But why would you leash and then just screw it over in bot lane?
Big questions that Edward Gaming will need to answer. You can tell that we're particularly excited.
他们
Anyways, you guys at home, you've been sharing photos with us about how
然后他们刚刚讲到一个蛮重要的点，就是下路在第一波的时间，崔斯塔纳跟纳米是完全没有去做一个拉，就是帮忙打 jungle 的一个动作。对，所以这就导致他们第一波可以做推线。那第一波推线呢，就可以把第一波的经验，当然第一波经验就会先获得，而且他们还有机灵的加持。除此之外呢，他把第一波的兵线推进去之后，可以导致对方的一个优势线，因为其实对方在瑟雷西加他们路线是一个非常强势的一个线。对，这边其实他推过去之后啊，会导致于对方变成要去在塔下做一个补兵，或者是甚至要把兵给坦住等等，把兵给拉开之类的一个动作，因为他们是蓝方，所以这边进而导致了这个接下来下路会被打得比较惨的一个原因。对，那这个真的其实还是蛮细节的部分，就是关于说这个他们在下路的部分处理的这个。Amp 这边Amp 马达这边知道说下路或许是没有那么大的机会，领先，所以他们这边选择我就是第一波兵不推。所以刚刚 Crapple 其实有提到，就是说，如果你是一个这么一个强大的一个露西恩加瑟雷西这种这么优势的一个对线组合，那你就不应该去帮忙打这个 buff 怪。他是觉得说根本连打 buff 怪就不要帮了这样子，对。这其实还蛮精彩的。你从这个 play 看得出来，他们其实对于EDG是没有什么太怕的。他们打的其实是很放得开的一个队伍。虽然说这是比赛第一场，可是他们也却没有因为这样而非常紧张。那神兽外的下路，事实上大概会是这个比赛里面最强的下路，所以很值得一看。怎么还是什么？好，下一场会进行的是 TSM 对上 SK。看到接下来的表，我发现 TS 在 SK， 我还是会转播啊。可是，我们接下来有 AHQ 的 TPA。接下来进到 B 组 ，TSM 对上 SK 的一个对决。会是一个还蛮重要的一个对决。刚刚上一场我也说很重要，结果有人被打得落花流水，有点难过。
Welcome back, everybody, to the League of Legends World Championship here live from Taipei, as I am joined here by someone who is no stranger to the international stage. It is, of course, TSM's owner, Reginald. Well, this time you're not playing, at least you're on the stage.
Yeah, so, I mean, it's been an amazing experience coming here and just seeing everyone, seeing all the fans just welcome us really warmly. So just like thanks to the fans for coming out and cheering us on.
Yeah, they definitely have your back. Talk me through what is going on leading up to this World Championship. You guys obviously went to Korea to scrim. How did that pan out? What kind of weaknesses of your team or maybe strengths did you discover over there?
So initially when we went to Korea, we thought that we were going to be way, way, way far behind. And when we played the Korean teams, they were really, really good. But individually, right, they don't really destroy lanes as what we expected. But their team play is just absolutely crazy. And that's what we're having trouble most with. And throughout the last 2 weeks, we've been playing a lot of games against the Korean teams, and we've only gotten better and better. And so the gap is closing. And so it's just been a really good experience going to Korea, boot camping there, looking at their infrastructure and just seeing how they do things so we can mimic it and copy it in our own ways. And when we go back to the US, we can train with that regiment and just make us better overall as a, an NA scene.
Oh, fantastic. Well, obviously you guys came out of the NA playoffs with a fantastic win over Cloud9. Does that momentum still carry on, or through that experience in Korea where you may be grounded a bit?
So, I mean, just going to PAX, like every single match was like a game of inches. We barely beat LMQ, we barely beat C9, and after the finals, we knew that we needed to work.
其他讲这些都不太重要。
And so the momentum kind of died down when we went to
所以
Korea.
我回答一下那个有人在聊天室问的问题。其实我刚刚出去晃一圈，我才想起来，你应该是要问，神圣博的下路到底怎么样？对，其实啊，我应该这么说啊。 其实，在各大家的下路里面，我还是会给韩国的下路会是比较高分。那你说韩国的下路为什么韩国下路比较高分？因为大部分应该讲说这3支的韩国队伍，像是这个刚刚的 Amp 加上 Mada， 其实他们在下路来说，他们的这个我说的是协调性会比其他队伍来得好一些。对，那。 你说那你觉得三圣部落下路？我觉得 Def 跟 Hard 其实Hard 的比赛我只能说老实说，我真的没有看很多。那 Def 的话，我对他的了解比较在于说，他是一个非常强的选手，他在会战当中也可以做一个非常好的一个位置的一个输出。对，可是在线上呢，我个人觉得线上载智力来讲。 三圣 Y 的 Amp Mata 会是比较可怕的一个对手，这样子，对，所以如果其实也没有如果像 TPA 这种在下路对线上面相对比较弱的对手的话，对到这些比较可怕的玩家，像 Amp Mata 的话，可能会非常的惨，这样子。对，那你说神圣部落跟神圣 White 的下路，你会下谁？我会下神圣 White， 就是刚刚那一对 Amp 加 Mata， 我觉得他们的组合是 不能讲说天衣无缝，而是他们真的协调性非常不错，然后加上Mata 是我觉得韩国最强的辅助。对，这是我觉得。好，这边我们来稍微介绍一下 TSM 上路玩家，就是你现在左边看到这个大块头，这一个家伙就是 Darius， 那旁边的这一位是这个Amazing Jungle 的 Amazing， 然后在隔壁那个比较帅的那个是他们的中路，来自欧洲的 Beerson， 然后再过去一点有点呆那个是 Wild Turtle， 然后再过去一点那个看起来像韩国人的，对。那个就是 Lux Boy， 那其实应该讲说其实 TSM 这支队伍在打 Cloud9， 就是他们在打这个比赛，打他们 LCS 的这个冠军的时候，其实他们是经历了非常多的这个比赛才打到冠军。他们我记得没错的话是2-1打败了 LMQ 还是谁，最后是3-2打败了 Cloud9。就他们其实这一个队伍的总结来说，他们比赛的这一个稳定性其实并没有到非常的高，就是他们可能有时候知道干嘛，有时候又不知道干嘛，所以在比赛当中，可能对于非韩国队伍来讲可能还 OK， 可是对于韩国，如果他们 TSM 对上韩国队伍的话，可能就比较容易没有这个一个自己要做什么这种概念，或者是说可能在视野上掌控的话，其实也不会比韩国队伍来得好。那你说什么叫做什么意思啊？你是说韩国怎么样嘛？对，那除了这个韩国，当然每一路基本上在经济许可的情况下都会戴眼镜以外，其实韩国其实在各个即将要打会战的时候，他们的布演的动作是布的非常迅速，而且不会拖延怠慢点，然后也不会因为这些布演而去又被单杀一些情况。对，所以这就是韩国在一些比赛的情况下，为什么他可以单抓人？为什么他可以怎么样？那很多都是来自于这些情报的一个这个优势。
English and only Korean where needed, and I think that's really good for TSM, and that indicates how well and how quickly they grow as a team. So I'm definitely looking forward to how much they learn from
a lot of positivity, but I know Freak is a little concerned about some things in TSM.
So TSM, it's still a very big test for them. This is a tough group. There's a lot of individually very strong players up against them. I think that they do outmatch SK role for role. Again, what Reggie said, I think that is pretty much true here, that the roster swaps have helped that significantly. But the difficulty is that I think, except for maybe against Royal Club, they're outmatched strategically in this group. I think every other team has better shot calling, especially with the fact that Bjergsen is actually a reluctant shot caller here. He wants to just kind of do what Xiao does, which is be silent and just go
对，其实 TSM 蛮仰赖中路 Bjergsen 的一个 carry 能力，他是一个我认为这样。我认为他就是韩国的 Faker， 就是他的表现其实永远非常亮眼，而且可以发挥大于一个人的这个威力。可是他表现亮眼，他的角色其实也算蛮多的，可是他未必能够撑起一局。就是像 Faker， 其实在他们所在队伍 SKT， 其实他也没有进入到这个季后赛的一个部分。对，那其实就比较需要靠其他的一些这个多加支援。那其实，在 TSM 近况来讲 ，Wild Turtle 就是他们的 AD carry， 其实并不是非常的好。对 ，Wild Turtle 以前是一个很稳定的 AD carry， 就是他其实没有什么太大的问题，然后对线还不错，还行。就是他对线不算是顶尖，可是他在对线不像 IMP 那么的猛，可是他在这个中后期在会战方面也可以稳输出这样子。可是在最近的比赛里面，他对线变得非常的弱，然后就没有办法打出像以往的稳定程度这样子。那以前他进入这个战队，进入 TSM 的时候，就觉得说，其实 Wild Turtle 还蛮强的，就是还蛮稳的这样子。可是现在他稳定度渐渐没有之后，就会变成你会觉得说他到底在干嘛这样子，对。然后他后期可能又突然来个 quadra kill 之类或 triple kill， 可是你会觉得说他好像没做什么事情，就突然 triple kill 的感觉，对。所以这是 Wild Turtle 一个比较麻烦一个地方。那 Luxport 其实大家都不太需要多说他其实是韩国非常非常强的辅助，然后后来是跑到这个 TSM 这里去。那现在 TSM 的话也是请了这一个他们大家应该都有听过 Local Doko 当做这个韩国人当做这个他们的教练。好，这边他有预测了，我自己的话，我自己是预测的 TSM 啦，可是这有一些个人的私心存在。
I'm gonna have to go with TSM for sure.
I think this was always going to be a very close matchup.
对，这个场其实真的非常非常的。
TSM's going to come out here with the suspension. SK, this group has kind of been broken up into 3 teams and unlikely SK. So TSM, I think, is the obvious choice.
I think TSM has a really good shot as well. That's my pick. But the question does stand that many of these players haven't actually played at Worlds yet. So maybe that actually shakes these guys up. You never know. SK is green as well, to be completely fair on this one. But sometimes
SK 这场是受到竞赛的效果，所以他们的 jungle 不是原本那个Svenskaren 是 Gilliard。
According to LOLesports.com, 84% of you guys
surprise.
think that TSM will take the win. Yeah, I don't think too many people. That's a great amount of support. Guys, before we head to this match, TSM tells us what it means to carry the hopes of the North American
这样 TSM 其实有蛮大一个机会，因为他们 jungle 其实
It's pretty special to be here at Worlds. Like, you play the whole season just for this moment, and it means everything to you.
I was there watching all through the groups to the final last year, just spectating, and I just really wanted to be on that stage, and this is my chance.
For our group stage and
中间这个就是 Local
other
Doko，
LCS teams, yeah, we're
这个是他们
probably carrying the hopes of the
上路的
LCS.
Dyrus。
I would say we're
AD
the hope of the Western region right now.
Me and Björksen obviously from EU to NA, so we unite basically in any year and try to show that we're capable of beating Koreans and basically beating other regions.
If we don't do well, then fans are going to feel like other teams that didn't manage to get here could have done better than us. So there is pressure on us, but it's also up to us to relieve that pressure and just play like we would usually.
It's the biggest stage I've ever been on, and it's basically the last chance in this season to prove our worth.
Well, we're about to see what TSM can and be put to the test as they come up in their next match, or their first match, I should say. Let's get right to it with a quick look at the starting lineups. On the blue side, it's going to be Team Solo mid. In the top lane, it's Dyrus. In the jungle, it's amazing. Björksen in the mid lane, Wild Turtle at AD carry, and Lustboy, always on support.
And of course, on the red side, it is SK Gaming. That means in the top lane, it is Freddy122. Coming in as substitute is Gilius in the jungle. Jez is in the mid lane.
SKT 的话，其实这个队伍是非常老牌的队伍，大家都知道。然后他这个队伍其实经历过非常非常多的这个改组。 那 Unrated 跟这个 Candy Panda 都算是欧洲的老成员，尤其 Candy Panda 是这个队伍的老成员。
Oh, you know, blah blah blah. They get this huge slump in the middle of the year, and they come back again. Now they have suspension. They're playing with a sub. Everyone completely counts them out. Never count SK out. They're actually an incredibly heady bunch, and they do know how to play together.
Yeah, one of the things SK has had throughout the entire season is they will generally lose the lane phase, but they always manage to pull together as a team and somehow manage to
这场的话，我觉得应该会针对上路SK 上路 Freddy 应该会来一些像 Natalie 这种 ban。那其他的话，我觉得大概就还是一个这个版本的 ban。
They almost never lose. That's one of the big reasons they pick strong laning champions and just the way they play. It's a very conservative style, actually. When they lose, they actually barely lose because they slowly get bled out and are afraid to make moves. That
等一下哦，是一件害不太该 lag。其实我一次开2个实况台很容易
they slowly win in the same fashion. So as far as a matchup goes,
oh, there we go. 我们进到这个比赛部分。那这边 TSM 之战的是蓝方，哦，这边 TSM 手 ban 那种啊 C。 然后 SK 这边 ban 手 ban 是露露，这边 ban 掉是 Dyrus 的露露。那 TSM 这边接下来我觉得就应该会走到一个比较正常一个 ban pick 部分。对，这边我觉得蛮多的，我觉得牛吧可能会把牛给 ban 掉。可是 Luxboy 其实也是一个会玩牛的玩家，这边不知道这边 Luxboy 会不会把牛给 ban 掉。他这边选择 ban 掉的是凯尔，然后这边 把比尔森的杰给 ban 掉，这边不知道 SK 会不会把这个辛朵拉给 ban 掉。而且比尔森非常有名的就是他的这个辛朵拉的一个 play。 好，这边的 TSM 其实还有很多可以变啊，这边可能会变一个茂凯吧。茂凯跟牛的话，我猜 TSM 这边应该会选择茂凯，然后牛刘，好，这边选择被 Aatrox 的那种雷都是 Freddy 的一个，就是 SK 上路玩家的一个特别角色。然后这边 ban 的话，可以看到这边最后 ban 还是非常尊重 Beerson， 选择 ban 掉的是辛朵拉。好，这边其实这个 ban pick 几乎都算是有中了，还行。好，那这边听 Solo 妹这边应该是留牛了，这边选牛。SK 的话，其实这边有瑟雷西，有很多有各式各样奇奇怪怪的角色。这个凯尔这个 ban 其实是unrated， 其实有时候他会选择用凯尔去做一个辅助 Candy Panda 一个动作。好 ，SK 这边选择是露西恩，露西恩的话当然不外乎他是一个现在非常非常强大的一个 AD carry， 然后他同时也是 Wild Turtle 的一个爱角。好，这边是 Ten Solomon， 这边对方选择卡莉丝加上露西恩之后，你看看卡莉丝想场场出啊。基本上这几场都场场出 ，Amazing 的李星也是蛮有名的。这边是看，我在这里不是李星就是伊利斯，这边应该不外乎是这两只。那这边可以看一下，这边辅助 Luxboy 是选择了我们之前一场也有提到，就是纳米，他非常喜欢纳米这只角色。好，在 SK Gaming 这边看起来，他们这边已经有一个jungle跟一个这个 AD 之后，这边。我猜应该也会拿一个瑟雷西，然后把最后一个 pick 留给中路做一个 counter pick， 所以应该会是这边选择 Sona 吗 ？Sona 的话就是完全是我没有想到一个角色，然后这边选择 Freddy， 这边选择是蒙多，那蒙多在我们的预测其实有出现啊 ，Team Solomon 这边我猜不是库奇就是崔斯塔纳，应该是不外乎是这两只角色。然后因为辅助已经出来，所以这边剩一个中路。中路的部分的话，这边出的是亚素，可以配合牛，可以配合李信，是一个还有配合纳米，是一个非常不错的一个局。那当然，其实这么多 CT 的角色，其实随便配一只都很好。那当然配亚素的话，这一场其实可以发挥非常的不错。那 Beerson 是我一个非常喜欢的中路玩家，那他就是我蛮少看到他不太会玩的角色，他基本上每一只玩都有他一定的这个程度。Wild Turtle 这边选择一个崔斯塔纳。对，其实在这个版本里面啊，这个前几名的 AD 大概就是露西恩、崔斯塔纳，然后可能寇格摩，可能崔斯塔，对不起，可能寇格摩，可能库奇，可能图奇，这几只大概就不外乎是这几只。SK Gaming 这边差一个中路哦，这边最后选择球女是一个比较稳定的一个 pick， 对。虽然说这个球可能没有办法穿过风墙，不过基本上这个球女在这种路来讲，只要她带一个这个治愈，或者是带一个这个虚弱，其实打这些刺客来讲都不会到太难打。哎呦，这边转圈有够久，我肯定要把这关掉比较顺利。好，这边可以看到这边好，我们再看一遍。其实猜测角色其实大部分都有猜到，而几乎这个有些是从上一场就已经猜到的角色。除了这里面，其实大概只有Sona是一个比较意外的一个选择，对，蛮有趣的。这边选择是Sona而不选择瑟雷西，这很怪。我觉得这一局他们选瑟雷西的话，这个也是挺不错的。可是他们竟然选择是唢呐，好。这可能是他们自己有自己的想法，因为其实露西恩加 Sona 是一个在之前版本里面是一个非常不错的一个组合。那现在这个版本的话，我个人认为是还好。我们稍微听一下他们怎么说。
Type of plays throughout the map.
Well, with the match about to get underway, we'd like to turn our attention to Twitter. Tell us who you think will score first blood. Use the hashtags TSMWin or hashtag SKWin. And of course, we'll send your tweets to LOL Esports. We'll check them out as we get the game underway. Here are the teams, here are the champions. What do we think here?
Well, a little bit of sustain in the bot lane is the one thing that I think. Not necessarily a huge lead here for Trisnami. If they can land a few big-time bubbles, it will be potentially the weak point of TSM. Wild Turtle has struggled massively in laning phase near the end of the North American season, and he needs to pick it up for World.
好 ，OK，there we go。怎么在 lag？ 这来给我们就要可能就要准备换个频道看一看。等一下哦，我找一个比较不钝的。
It's a very different team. That's all about supporting Power of Evil in the mid lane. Can he
这
do
个
the same with
蛤蟆的
Jesus?
顺
Jesus is a completely power-y games, and Gilius will support
Great.
him. And I gotta wonder, will Freddy be in the
好
shot caller? Whether
好，
he's
这
just
边
gonna pull him towards
因
that
为
top
退
lane
取
or
那个
maybe
频
that
道其实是大概慢1分钟，所以这边是在阿兹布这边是比较快一点的，我们就直接进到游戏的这边。这边的话，这边两边都是采取一个正线，没有做一个逆 U 或者是奇奇怪怪的调动。那这边两边的 jungle 都是从左上开始。对，这边其实这边 Freddy 这样走出来的时候，其实已经因为他刚刚有丢这个菜刀，所以他本身血量是有变少的。所以这边 Darius 是马上就看到说，哎，这个对方应该是从这个子方应该是从红起。好，这边下路这边这个中路部分可以让比尔森一上2等直接硬打一波。这边是把这个这个 Jessis 的这个血量打的是非常非常的低。这边看起来这边中路他是过得还蛮开心的，或者是滑来滑去，对啊，其实这些角色就是这样，就是这副德行就是这么的开心啊。好，这边的 Amazing 这边正在吃这个自己家的这个红 buff， 两边其实都在自己的这个第2个 buff 做奋斗。这边很有趣的是，大部分都从右下角开，哎，可是这一场呢反而是从左上角开，这场可能是因为上一场的一个影响啊，我觉得就是上一场，哎，大家发现说，看那个除了麒麟的这个被动的这个经验加成有蛮大的影响，对于下路的对线很有影响以外，对，就发现说，哎，下路要赢线其实跟这个第一波的这个经验或者第一波有没有推线其实蛮有关系的，所以这边这个两边的 jungle 都不约而同的从上路这一边开始。好，李信这边是直接过来，然后这边是1加1个闪现，好，最后是还是直接骗掉这个 Jessis 的这一个治愈加上这个闪现，哇，这边是非常非常凶，这边看到 Amazing 这边是直接硬是这个强 gank 掉中路的这个秋女的这个闪现，对，其实这一波来讲呢，对 TSM 来讲，这个中路就轻松许多。因为一个球女对上加速，她没有闪现的时候，其实这个对线是非常非常的困难的。我觉得我好像讲了一句废话，因为其实几乎每一只角色没有闪现，在对线都会有一点点的这个小小的障碍。好，这边可以看到这兵线继续持续的扣住，然后 TSM 这边中路再蹲一波，一样从同一个位置这样几乎是可以直接省一个眼 W 过去。Jessie 这边是直接在对方的这个3狼插一个眼睛，这边插一看就知道说，哎，对方可能是是刚吃完还是怎么样？对，就是如果这边直接 Q 上来缓住，这边 Jessie 是直接被带走，哇，这边 Pearson 是成功的这个跟 Amazing 配合拿下这一杀，这有一点亏啊，因为其实这个球女这一波本来是想要撤退的，结果。这个因为兵一推过来，这边是搞得最后是没有想说，哎，再吃一波好了，就是因为这个再吃一波的想法，这最后是导致他自己死在这个中路。刚讲到这个在野区插眼啊，其实野区插眼这边这个一插眼，你就可以看到说，哎，他有没有复活？那复活倒推个50秒，大概就知道他50秒前大概站在这个位置。好，这边上路 Freddy 这边是选择撤退 ，Darius 这边呢是。开心的继续做一个农兵，他的 AD 怎么这么高？好，这边崔斯坦纳跟纳米这个下路线，其实是两个，这是两个都是一个这个属于一个续战类型，都有这个回魔的这个讲错回血这个技能的一个线，所以下路我觉得应该是不会出现，除了 gank 以外，应该是不会出现太多的一个这个奇奇怪怪的情况。这边是变成是非常非常的凶啊！就看到有机会就直接上去凶这个 Jessis 一波。好，这边牛是回家看来是要出一个闪耀剑，真的是感觉有点被玩弄的感觉。其实这个版本呢，中路这边啊，这边这个变成升上6等。 这 Amazing 要不要直接过来？好，这边是没有缓到，不过这边有 Q 到大概也不能怎么样，不过还是成功骗了掉一个上了蒙多的闪现。我们球女是按耐不住压力，是选择再回家一波，然后这边是出了一个不假。那下路赤壁部分，这个没有太大意外，两边都是采取一个比较被动的一个农兵。我觉得 Candy Panda 跟 Unrated 这个是一个比较凶的一个线啊。可是我觉得在这个组合来讲，其实你真的要凶也是蛮难的，就是你并没有一个像色雷系这种稳稳的 CC。好，两边 jungle 部分可以看到这边。李信目前已经有一个头，然后卡莉斯目前比较执着于在这个野区去做一个农 buff 的一个状态。那这一场这个卡莉斯也是选择进化是 W， 我说也是因为他上一场的那一只卡莉斯也是选择6等的时候进化 W， 这边是 Amazing 是选择把这个自己的蓝 buff 先给收掉。右边有个一直有一个那个游标有点不舒服。好，这边中路的部分，那边这个可以看到亚索士兵是已经有点小小的往前，小小的这个优势。对，这个其实呢，在左上角有出现这个 Wild Turtle 在比赛，在这个之前 LCS 北美的时候拿出崔斯塔纳的这个胜率其实是蛮高的。他会出的，在这个系列赛他会出的角色。不外乎就是崔斯塔纳、露西恩跟库奇啊，不会有别的。好 ，TSM 这边趁着这个牛6的直接来中路，直接 gank， 哇，这个是完全是不给面子，完全是不给面子，直接来强暴中路，而且是绕了好大一圈呢。这个绕了这一圈，其实SK 虽然说在在自己的中路的左侧这边有眼睛，可是其实还是没有看到这个牛的这个来向。然后 Amazing 这边在这个对方在补回中路的时候，也是成功的拿下这个 buff。这样虽然说没有像是上一场那个韩国这么的干脆利落，可是你也可以看出来 TSM 其实他还是有这个他们的这个打法在，成功的利用，我这边直接踢，结果没有成功的 Q 到。这边原本是想说直接把你踢在墙上，然后可能可以直接踢在墙上之后会比较好 Q， 结果最后还是没有 Q 到，有点尴尬。最后 Amazing 这边是直接掉了一个双 buff 在这个下路，有点尴尬。才发现这个其实自己家的这个 AD carry 其实也没有成功推进去，所以这边其实是没有办法做什么事情。好，这边有点可惜啊，这边原本在称赞 TSM， 称赞的结果就在结果就在这边死翘翘了，有点可惜。上路部分我们都直接出了2个腰带，士兵是一个75只，中路亚速已经来到82只，两边 AD 的部分崔斯塔纳还是一个86只的一个领先。等一下啊。好，那么中路部分这个可以看到亚索真的是很开心，这卡莉斯其实没有太在管中路的感觉。你看两边的粉眼，紫方是插在中路的左侧，然后蓝方这边是没有插。好，这边是成功排掉了一个眼睛之后，这边 Luxboy 也是来到中路去做插眼的动作。这边在中路，蓝方在中路4个右侧地方是没有插粉眼，选择插的是这个3分钟的一个绿眼。Amazing 这边绕过来被看到了，被看到之后呢，好，这边是果断先插了一根眼睛，插眼睛之后，这边是直接重击掉对方的大鬼，这个拿掉之后逃至11，这边的 Candy Panda 可能是要趁这个 buff 还有的时候赶快把这个大绝给用掉，这样子 CD 其实也会比较快一点。可能说是92 CS 我刚刚讲成什么了？可能我的眼睛已经瞎了。好，这边的李信再度来到中路，这边是在抓到一个 Gilius 的这个想要来对方野区，想要来哇，这边直接果断缴掉闪现，对，完全 不多说，直接脚脚闪现，刚好抓到一个对方的一个这个探太深的一个时间。好，这边 Wild Turtle 看起来也是想要走一个 BF， 然后直接上电刀的一个推兵流，对，这跟上一场的 Amp 的这个出发是一模一样。反正不管怎么样，这个我们先不理解他，反正先出就对了。没有啦，其实上一场这个 IMP 先 BF 后上这个电刀，其实主要就是让这个推兵的能力出来，让这个电刀推兵能力出来，然后可以去很快做一个清兵的动作。好，这 Amazing 是直接开龙之后，这边是有被对方注意到，可是在这个时间点，中路推进去，然后这个下路也是很及时的，直接来打龙，这边是可以稳稳的 TSM 拿下了一只龙。对，这边的中路球女这边是被压了，还是得出一个探索者护腕。有些中路玩家他在对上 AD 刺客的时候可能会选择还是出张杯，然后去走一个探索者护腕这样，然后之后再补一个沙漏。有些的玩家会直接出探索者护腕，然后配水滴啊，其实都有。可是大部分我看到球女这个角色来说，她对减 CD 是有一点要求的，所以大部分玩家玩这个球女这种类型或这一只角色的时候，大部分对上 AD 他还是会去做出一个张杯，然后去应该讲说出圣杯，然后探索者护腕再上一个张杯，这样子就是雅典娜的恶魔圣杯。上路 Freddy 这边吃兵111只，跟这个牛都是其实都算蛮高的，100只对上113只。好，这边这个对不起。好，这边这个可以看到亚速在中路已经出了这个电刀，然后这边吃兵也是非常高，133只。TSM 在前期这边拿到了不少的这个经济，而且都是这个就是应该讲说，除了这个人头以外，其实就默默在吃兵上跟龙这边可以拿到一些这个经济的优势。这边 SK 的话就比较需要仰赖看他们这个接下来在打会战的时候，能不能利用他们这个球女一个团控，加上卡莉丝这个剪头，看有办法可以把这个伤害给打出来。因为以他们的这个组合来讲，其实就是一个还蛮就是蛮扎实的一个组合。可是，我觉得跟 TSM 这个全部都配合 Beerson 这个组合来讲，我觉得差蛮多的。因为其实大家在针对 TSM 做功课的时候，其实都非常明显的知道说，其实TSM 有个很大的重点在于中路，所以当你遇到了这个 TSM 这支队伍的时候，像这一场可以让他出到这么多配合亚速的这个角色的时候，其实对于这个 SK 来讲，真的不是一件好事。好，这边是果断角的闪现。这边原本只是想要来这个 gank 看有办法杀到，可是因为蒙多开了这个大绝跑速太快，没办法。这边是纳米这边只有一个大绝，这边有 Q 到，这边 Whiter 是果断的选择这个 W 回去有点可惜。原本以为这个平静的战场又要再闹出一番腥风血雨，结果没有。好 ，Whiter 又来吃这个这个双石像。其实每次看到 Whiter 吃双石像，就有一种说不出的感觉。这就是 Whiter 头这样子。好，这边应该是可以轻松的这个把下路兵给清掉。可以看到下路的这个 AD 的经济差距其实也是在一个范围之内，比较不像中路的差距是稍微大一点。这个真是成长非常好，15分钟获得160只士兵，感觉好像是打电脑，而且我几乎没有看到亚速去做一个清野的一个动作，所以基本上他大概就是把所有的兵都稳稳的剪掉。这边这个原本 SK 这边 jungle 应该是Sven Skaren， 可是这边因为他禁赛，所以这边这个替补是这个 Gilius。听说 Gilius 是一个在欧洲也是一个蛮高端的玩家。 对不起，因为我现在疯狂打哈欠，所以没有那个没办法继续讲。好，这边这个这边牛只把它撞开，然后搭配一下普攻。这个版本里面的牛 W 依然还是可以配 A。然后中路的部分可以看到球女这边是确实把装备给补起来，两边的经济差距是一个可以接受的一个3K。3K 大概就是下一只龙可能是一个蛮大一个重点。哦，这边是直接移过来，发现其实打他蛮痛的，所以就想要回头继续打一下。不过其实这个位置对亚索来讲，可能最好还是先撤退会比较稳当一点。这边可以看到一路这个赛前的一个预测，这边其实中路这边的 TSM 是占足了这个优势。这个无论是吃兵也好，或者是整体的这个气势也好，你看到中路可以不断的把兵线压进去。然后这边可以看到蒙多这边出了一个蓝盾，这是蛮有趣的，因为我从来没有看过一个玩家第一件装备出蓝盾的。好，这边这个别人直接大绝下来，结果这边李信的这个 Q 的 CD 好像是不知道是在 CD 还是怎么样，就比较晚 Q 出来。不过最后 Amazing 还是一个李信一个成功把球女直接踢墙，然后配合这个比尔森的点燃，成功把球女给带走。这样球女真的是有点惨。这边这个Unrated 这边一个大绝，不过这边 Wild Turtle 看起来是没有问题，可以再上来补掉。没有，这最后的布线是成功让这个唢呐给活着下来。哇，这有点惨。不过这边后面有李信哦，李信这边出来，这边 Q 没有 Q 到，这个位置他应该。这边直接插眼，这一招贱，这一招直接插眼，然后直接让牛直接来做一个轻松的塔杀。好，这边一个 Q 到太多人了，我觉得路线不应该待在这个唢呐旁边，因为这一 Q 就是2只啊。对，这边是一个非常漂亮的一个支援，可以看到这边这个虽然说是一个这个4打3，可是这边可以看到这个 TSM 是完全是全胜的一个状态。好，TSM这边是又是一个遭遇战，这边是遇到了，结果竟然是直接被一个单收掉，然后牛这边撞过来，一样是先是被比尔森给解决掉。对啊，这一场怎么会这么虐呢？我觉得这种实在有点夸张啊，这场。好，这边再看一次这个会战，这会战原本这个大绝的，收纳大绝是还好，我觉得大米大绝是蛮漂亮，然后这边 Ray 也是。侥幸存活之后呢，这边是直接插一根也让这个牛给传送下来。好，传送下来这个时候，其实蒙多也同时有传送在塔。然后下来的时候呢，牛一次有中到蛮多只的，这是比较糟糕的部分。好，轻松的可以收掉这个下塔。这边 TSM 这个经济领先已经来到10K。8比1，然后获得了一只龙，然后加上2座外塔，然后更不说这个中路的领先了。这边看到亚速，我第一次看到亚速出嗜血者，这边基本上亚速已经是双打了。他这场他要出嗜血者，或者出无尽，或者出陨落，其实都行。非常非常轻松打的一个状态。这边选择一个嗜血者。野龟这边也是在一个非常快的时间获得了一个这个非常好的一个装备 ，I1 加上这个电刀，你看到这个两边的这个 AD 也都换成了这个蓝色的金球，我刚刚查了金球。好，这边这个亚树直接上大绝，然后这边是可惜李信这边有办法可以收掉，这边最后李信还是成功还到之后最后一个大绝是直接把蒙多给收掉了。这有点尴尬。戴瑞这边是追着残血的 Kenny Panda 跟 Reddit 跑，对，不过这边感觉起来是没有什么太大的机会。这边是不断的在普攻，发现牛的攻击其实是有点痛的，对，因为这边Darius 这边其实是有出这个 AD，讲错，有出这个3项之力，所以这边对他来讲，其实现在普攻来讲是蛮痛的。这边崔斯塔呢也在中路莫名其妙的杀掉了这个卡利斯。这场这 TSM 这边应该是爽赢啊！没有想到这个 SK 跟 TSM 这边竟然会是一个这么大的一个差距。原本只是觉得说或许 TSM 会比较有一点小优势，可是这边可以看到 TSM 这边是非常压倒性的，几乎是可以获得这场比赛的一个胜利，说这一场的胜利。这边是一个想要杀人的卡莉丝的故事，想要偷偷欺负别人，结果反被别人也欺负。这边牛是出了一个电刀，而且最近蛮多奇怪的玩家会出一些像有些奈德里啊，也是开始蛮多人会出这种3项之力，然后出一个电刀，做一个很快的推进。我觉得这攻速是非常非常快的，对啊。可是这个伤害的话，就要仰赖说那个电刀一直点，或者是你有机会能够爆起这样子啊。它本身这样子的装备来讲 ，AD 其实并不高。好，我们这个 TSM 这边其实应该是爽赢了，所以我其实比较想要让他们来讲。好，我们听他们讲，然后我再做一些补充，因为我觉得这个 TSM 其实没有什么太大的问题啊。这一场其实在每一路方面其实都是赢的，甚至我觉得在 ban pick 就已经赢了，就是牙数摆在最后一个还可以有这么多一个配合，其实就是蛮奇怪的这样。然后这边 SK 最后还是选择一个唢呐当一个辅助，就更奇怪了。这边应该是可以在5分钟之内把这一局推完。哦，直接不见。哦，这边直接大到了 Wild Turtle， 可是这边没有机会了。GT。没有问题。哇，还投降。
What a way to start their journey towards the World Championship. Obviously, they're playing against a SK that was not together in this one.
蛮意外的，
But they definitely knew how to finish that time. That is the fastest, most decisive game I have probably seen from TSM since they formed this roster for sure. And to do it on the world stage in their first game is spectacular.
You gotta think, Bjergsen, we talked about him, is the pressure on him, the shot caller, the man of the moment for TSM, and by God did he perform on Yasuo this early on. From the very get-go, he looked like a man on a mission.
I don't even know how to finish this one because the game got out of hand so quickly. We were like 14, 15
当然是可以说，这场亚索表现非常好，可是我觉得光是 ban pick 就有问题了。
Maybe Mundo can get to a point, and then it was over.
I gotta focus on the point that TSM adapted to that misplay so quickly. Amazing went in, and they didn't do it ever again. They didn't make a wrong call after that. They were in the game, and they were ready to just take the win. Knowing they had the advantage, TSM played as they usually do. Loco Doco coming around, the team says the 6th player of the team, and he's been paying off for him.
Yeah, absolutely
fantastic
stuff. TSM coming in strong.
The game was so fast. That was a 24-minute game. You don't see games that fast really anymore. Sure, SK surrendered, but that's because their Nexus was probably going to die. They'd just been completely aced inside of their base.
I would say they've done it to Alliance as well. They've had that against them. 24 minutes, boom, done. Thank you very much. We've had to give up the Ghost. They've done it themselves. They've had some fast games, but we talked about the lane phase. We talked about how SK will start slow, and TSM coming into this one clearly well aware of that fact and putting the pressure points where it was needed. You know, you got to talk about the bottom lane. A lot of questions were on Wild Turtle coming into this game, but with Lustboy alongside him, the safety net is there, and clearly, you know, the harness is strong with that one because there was a lot of big disengages coming out from Lustboy.
The bottom lane played good, not great. The reason the Wild Turtle was able to come out 5-0-3 is because Bjergsen played great.
Yes. And you got to think, you know, coming against Starhorn later on today against Uzi, it's a big, big question mark.
I can't wait. That's going to be the last game of the day, Game 6. And if we continue having 23-minute games,
could be a quick day
pretty soon.
So here's the thing, obviously team
我们想到这一场加入 AD， 其实 Kenny Panda 跟 Radiant 其实状况都没有很好，所以这边打起来是没什么太大压力的感觉。可是，在打今天的最后一场打对上皇族的时候就难说了。
Could not be countered by SK. They got absolutely everything. Lustboy got to play Nami, right?
Yeah.
Please, someone. You know, they're not even using early picks on it.
It was like history repeats itself in the beginning of the game. Just another generation of Reginald and having Odd1 in his back pocket to start off a game.
Well, so should we talk about Dyrus in that top lane? Because, you know, it was a fairly solid game. Didn't really get too much involvement, but his teleport was the one that counted when they piled down the bottom lane.
He played like Dyrus when Dyrus plays well. You don't really notice him until he's winning the game for you, right? Like he was withstanding a Mundo in lane, and then he made a great play mid, he made a great play bottom, and that really catapulted the game.
That's right. All right, so we're going to send it over to Shox right now, who's on stage for a word with TSM's Bjergsen.
Thank you very much, Riv. First off, congratulations, Bjergsen. There is not much more that you can hope for getting a first game like that here at the World Championship. Talk me through the strategy, very much focusing on your mid lane in the beginning.
It was just pretty much how the game or the picks worked out. We weren't expecting them to give us all these power picks like Nami on Lost Boy. We have Alistar. We got Lee Sin on Amazing. We just got all these really good comfort champions and all these champions that these players are basically known for. And they just put into really good combo role.
Yeah, absolutely. And Reggie was saying how you guys would have strong laners. You got all of those, and then the team synergy for SK was praised by Reginald, but you guys didn't even have to deal with that. Tell me how the game snowballed out of control.
It was just pretty much the way the lane was set up mid. We managed to get a gank off, and I think as soon as you get a kill on a stage like this, everyone just feels like you're in control and you know exactly what to do and you're just on point. And I feel like as soon as you get just a couple kills, everyone knows what to do, everyone's on the same page, and everyone feels like this is where we need to go and that we're the better team.
Well, it is a fantastic start for you guys in this group. Talk me through your thoughts on the group overall. Great first game. Do you think SK won't be about it for you guys anymore, and who will be?
I think for this group specifically, it's definitely going to be Stormheart and Royal. They're kind of like a weird team. We haven't been able to get that much other than what they've just been playing in the own scene. But I think they're just a really strong team, and they have a lot of specific picks that they play really well, and we need to be ready for that. And it's not something we've been able to practice against.
Well, then let's look forward to that game, because it is, of course, the last game of the day here versus Starhorn Royal Club, and going up against a Chinese mid laner, a wholly different style. How are you feeling going into that?
I've been playing against Wei Zhao in NA for a while, and he's just a great player. So I'm ready for a lot of different things, and I've heard that Chinese players they can play a lot of different mids, they can be very versatile, and I can't wait to play against their aggression.
I can't wait to see what you pull out. Thank you very much. Congratulations.
Thanks.
All right, and now we're going to head back over to the guys at the desk.
Thank you very much, and what a dominant performance from Bjergsen with the aid of Amazing camping out that middle lane throughout the early stages of the game. Truthfully, TSM had SK's number through the entirety of that match, all the way back to picks and bans. And the early game, what was your thoughts on the Sona pickup for Unrated, knowing Brown was open, and how SK handled the laning phase?
Yeah, looking at what point, at the end of the draft, basically, SK had one pick left, and they knew they were going to play Lucian because that was their early pick into Tristana Nami, and they went for Sona. And I really disagree with that. I feel Sona is just an inferior version of Nami, especially when it comes to poking, you'll get out sustain eventually. Anything with some aggressive play, because you need to shut that Tristana lane down. There is this stereotype that Tristana does so well at playoffs and worlds for some reason, but she can be beaten. She can be beaten by Lucian in lane, but you need to play the lane correctly. And maybe SK was just, you know, has the jitters coming first world game, play passive, but if you want to play passive, don't pick Lucian.
I do want to kind of push a little bit on the Sona point. I think Sona is great. Actually, if the lane were normal and not misplayed, I think Sona Lucian would have won that fight, and I think Sona does just fine against Nami. From what I've seen of League of Legends, I think Sona deserves more respect than you're giving her, but that as it may. I do think, though, the game kind of played out as you expect. He's a better individual player, Amazing, obviously a better jungler than Gilius. Gilius also not a very aggressive jungler in the first place. I mean, this was a guy who was getting out-jungled in his promotion relegation match against Millennium, you know, and that's a tough mark to beat then when you're up against guys like Insec in your group.
Yeah. I think a key point in this game happened to be that there is just no synergy between the mid lane and jungle. Obviously, you're putting in a substitute, and they failed to recognize that the entire team comp of TSM revolves around Yasuo and getting Yasuo far ahead. So Kha'Zix was basically just lounging around mid lane instead of making his own thing happen, try to create pressure elsewhere and force TSM to react. Instead, we saw him just walk behind Jesses the entire time, just be like, okay, I'm waiting for Lee Sin to come around. Where's Lee Sin? Lee Sin never shows up because he's not going to show up in the 1v2 scenario. And he had multiple opportunities to get better objective control when they committed to making dives on Mundo, and it just never happened.
Not only that, but to really jungle here at the world level, you have to have a lot of synergy with your team, because the problem really was that amazing. He had those misplays. He kind of gave up the double buffs when he was trying to make the plays, but what he did really well was that he was playing always on the side of the map with the pressure, right? And Gilius looked a bit lost. He was constantly in the wrong side of the jungle, getting counter-jungled, and it was just kind of a disaster. He had zero presence in that game.
What do you mean playing on the side of the map with pressure? Just for the clarification.
Yeah, well, when the lanes are pushing up, so let's say you're pushed up into the top and middle side, or you've got a preferable matchup where, for example, in the Dyrus roam coming down after they had pressed up into top, and when they had that Yasuo who was getting fed in the mid lane, go into the enemy's red buff in that circumstance if you're on the blue side, and try and control the top side of the map in that circumstance. They got the deep wards down, and then you can punish so hard off of that.
See, TSM was capitalizing on mistakes. SK wasn't doing so. At one point, the desk here pointed out, I actually didn't even see it myself until you guys called it out, that Julius could have went for a red buff. Instead, they went for the tower push. Same for bottom. Going back to that laning phase, I went back and watched the first like 4 or 5 minutes of that laning phase, and SK they gave TSM the push. They got outpoked. All their poke led up to just Nami out sustaining it anyways, and they didn't play aggressive enough. And if you don't play aggressive enough, you can't capitalize on the mistakes, and then you'll just die just a slow death, and eventually Bjergsen will become too big.
Well, very one-sided game. We will have to take a step back and talk about TSM's power later in the day. But coming up next, two teams will be making their first appearance at Worlds as Dark Passage Turkey faces AHQ Esports Club.
Dark
a quick look at some
Passage
of the players here. Are the Turkish champions?
AHQ.
On watching their matches from that practice room, we need to see how they step up against stronger opposition. AHQ, they are doing the same. It's quite focused, calm looks on their faces. Guys, we will be moving to a short break very, very shortly. When we are back, we'll return with that match.
Freddy comes down to join the party, but he's simply just another death for TSM. And SK just makes matters worse. Wow! Gilius going down. Jets in the wrong place at the wrong time. Turtle gets hit up. Will he be able to keep it going? Everybody's jumping in and going for broke this time. Gilius gets hit up. Thrown down in the box, and they go for Freddy towards the fountain.
因为我太累了，所以我接下来的比赛应该会开着他们的声音，然后做即时的翻译或者是解说。Ben Pig 我应该会 ，Ben Pig 其实下一场没什么好讲的。下一场的话 ，DP 对上 HQ 重点我觉得还是会在两队的中路了。那 DP 的话，可能要看一下 Holy Phoenix， 就是他们的这个 AD carry 到底能够发展怎么样子。那 AHQ 主轴永远都是在中路，所以中路的选备角就会变得非常的重要。我是亚速杰还是菲斯还是逆命？我觉得这你要出哪一支，那也有完全的这个队上的配套措施，都会是比较重要的。可以看到这个是 GPL 的这个杀人数排行榜，第一名是 VB 159，第二名是黑牛的102，第三名才是这个西门夜秀。我的意思是说，第一名跟第二名其实差距是蛮大的。因为我不知道为什么今天现在突然变超累了，我刚刚疯狂打哈欠，所以我们等一下应该就是采取一个半转播的一个模式，这样子。我现在有点开始担心明天到底能不能转播，而且其实像今天的状况，其实今天的观众其实并没有非常的多，所以我有点担忧我明天到底还要不要转播，因为老实说我不太喜欢，我其实我承认啊，其实我今天大概有超过5次跟我自己说，我知道不会有太多的观众，所以我不太想做转播这样子，所以因为我知道我们的观众其实就是
我知道我们的观众其实就是这样子，我也知道其实大家，我也知道我其实没有现在其实没有真的想要去做一个专职的赛评，对，不像以前就是说专职的赛评转播这些或许是很必要的，可是现在老实说，我连实况现在，我上一场打 low 是上个礼拜。知道，其实我连 low 都不太打了，我还要去转播这些比赛，然后还要去注意这些东西。我昨天还要去做一个观战的重点，其实对我来讲，都还是要额外花时间。其实我没有很想花时间，因为蛮累的。因为这些比赛，其实我今天看完这2场，我知道下面我就不太需要看，就是可能 TPA 对皇族看一下，对，皇族对 TSM 看一下，其他我觉得都不用看。可是，在转播的时候，必须还是得看。对，就是转播是转播，然后实际上自己看又是另外一回事。就好像 Mistake 也说 ，A 组应该不会那么的碾压啦，这是他在自己说的。可是事实上 A 组就是碾压这样子，就是说一套，可是事实上自己心里想也是。我觉得会可以是另外一套，就是你今天我可能会讲说下一场很重要，下一场很精彩，可是事实上我自己心里未必是这么想的。这样。好的，找我们 BB 咯。
I would like to welcome a local favorite, the Taipei Assassins AD carry, BB. Fantastic to talk to you here in Taipei. First up, what does it mean for you to be back here on the world stage after a year of not being there and, of course, winning it all the way in Season 2?
请问重回世界大赛以后，你的感想是什么？因为 S2你赢冠军了，可是 ST 你没有参加。
重回就是世界舞台是非常高兴的，因为这是每个选手的梦想。然后我对于这次可以站上世界舞台，就是我会就希望可以拿到很好的成绩这样。
He's very happy that he's back at the world stage. It's a dream for all the players, and he hopes to succeed in this season.
Well, talking about succeeding in the season, you guys did fantastic over in the GPL, and you guys actually said after All-Stars that you felt kind of behind on the foreign teams. So how far do you think you've caught up coming into this tournament?
说 All-Star 的时候，你们那时候好像打得不是很好。那现在从 All-Star 到现在，你们有什么差别吗？有进步吗？
对，因为我们在 All-Star 之后，然后我们有请了一个韩国教练，然后韩国教练就是教了我们许多的东西，然后也是把他的这个知识带到我们这边来，所以我们现在就是一定会比明星赛的时候好。
So after All-Stars, they hired a Korean coach, and he's been giving them different strategy and guides, and hopefully that has improved the team's strategy by a lot.
All right, so of course you guys are coming in here, and later today you have the game versus Starhorn Royal Club and their superstar Uzi versus you in the bottom lane. How do you think that matchup is going to go, BB?
所以之后你们马上要跟皇族打了，那 UCI 是很有名的 ADC， 那你有什么想法呢？
我知道 UDI 是一个非常强的选手，所以这次就是等一下比赛我会尽我全力打败他。
He knows that UZI is a really good AD carry, and he'll do his best to defeat him.
All right, well, that'll be a great matchup. Finally, you're here in Taipei in front of your home crowd to play those games. Is there anything you want to say to the fans coming out here?
最后一个问题是，你在台北，然后现在在家乡，有没有话要跟你所有的粉丝讲？
就是谢谢一直支持 TPA 还有我的粉丝，然后我们这次会尽全力拿到胜利，谢谢。
He's thanking all the fans in Taiwan for their support, and they'll try everything in their power to win the games.
Well, it's fantastic to have you guys here, and good luck in your upcoming matches. All right, I know everyone is excited for this next match, so without further ado, let's send it over to the guys at the desk.
Thank you very much, Shucks. It is great hearing from the players. Now we're on to our third match, which is going to be Turkey's Dark Passage versus GPL's AHQ Esports Club. Look, both of these teams are considered to be massive underdogs in this group, but the winner of this game is the one that we think could potentially be the dark horse that could potentially go on to upset the two superstar teams. I think they've both got similar play styles. They both rely on strong mid lane play, and their strong AD carries generally getting towards that mid to late game. So let's talk let's talk a little bit about their players. Crepo, what's your thoughts?
I just want to say, yeah, potentially, of course, they can be the dark horse, but after watching the first game in the group, I do think they're going to be outclassed by a significant margin.
Yeah, Freak rather. Yeah. Talk to me about Dark Passage. They are far and away the strongest team in their region, gone undefeated for basically 2 straight years. They showed up big at International Wildcard, weren't really pressured. What's your take on their team?
这个土耳其战队Dark Passage 是在土耳其的当地其实拿到非常多的冠军，好像是6座。
A top EU challenger or low EU LCS caliber team. So somewhat below SK at full power. Again, I think this puts them at a pretty weak spot. That said, they are still pretty decent and they look better than they did last year.
看到刚刚 SK 那个比赛，我觉得
Holy Phoenix is a very good player. He's going to be.
我觉得 TBA 非常有机
He's going to
会
be。everything he can be, but again, it's still a tough climb for these guys. And that's kind of just the story here. Is Dark Passage are huge underdogs.
Crumbs, you know a little bit about Westall. He's star for AHQ. What do you think he's going to do against this fairly unknown international mid laner?
I actually think the matchup between these two teams is going to really come down to Westdoor just getting a lead. Now, Dark Passage's mid laner is not known for being an exceptional mid laner, but Westdoor is. This guy's been rank 1 in North American server, Korean server, and Taiwan server. He's been around for quite a while, and he's built up quite a bit of a fan base for himself. And I think we're going to see him perform.
Well, we will have to find out if he does. Guys, before we throw it up to the caster desk to get us into the game, I do want to poll all of you to see who you are going to be picking. We'll do this one in a slightly mixed up order. Freak, prediction, who's going to come out on top?
I think definitely AHQ, and I do want to see just how strong AHQ looks. I still think they could be that team to upset Edward Gaming and take second in the group. It's a long shot, but it starts here.
Well, we'll see how they perform. Crumbs, you're next on my hit list.
I got to go for AHQ. Westdoor, hoping for that Mordekaiser pick.
Sound like a bit of fun there. Crepo, are we going to go AHQ or are you going to believe in Dark Passage?
他说希望那个他选摩托凯
I
撒。
actually want the Mordekaiser pick now that you've mentioned it.
Of course.
I used to scrim a little bit with it with Froggen. We let him have it for a couple of times, and you can have fun with Mordekaiser. So yeah, why not?
Well, it worked for Overpower a couple of times. Monte Cristo, final thoughts?
AHQ, I don't think there's a lot to say here. They play in a vastly more competitive region, and despite Dark Passage dominance, it's probably going to be an AHQ win.
Well, we will see if it does work out that way. Guys, you've heard from the analyst desk. Let's see who you've picked at home to take the win over on lolesports.com. Dark Passage is leading AHQ with 53%. So I think most of the viewers are a little on the fence on this one. Before we get this match underway, let's hear the players from Dark Passage tell us how they have prepared for Worlds while making a name for themselves in the fast-growing Turkish League of Legends scene.
Dark Passage bir LoL takımı arıyordu. Biz de bir takım olarak bu takıma geçtik. Uzun bir süre beraber kaldık. Oyuncu değişiklikleri oldu. Ama her zaman kazanmayı bildik ve devam edeceğiz.
In Turkey, for 2 years, we won all tournaments. Like we just played well and we won them.
Hem arkadaşlık olarak hem de takım sinerjisi olarak diğer Türk takımlarına oranla daha iyiyiz.
First year I couldn't go to wildcard because I was 16 years old. It was really sad for me. This year I could go to wildcard.
我得讲英文啊。
We practiced a lot for the wildcard tournament and winning the all Turkish tournaments. It was really hard and exhausting, but we are here. I think the scene in Turkey is still growing up. 2 years ago it was small.
After Riot came to Turkey, we traveled in all of the cities in Turkey and host some tournaments. We gave our players a chance that they can compete with each other, and we found that actually Turkish players have very competitive spirit.
Tabii ki diğer sporlarda da böyle. Türkiye'de büyük takımlar arasında büyük çekişme var. League of Legends'ta da bu kültür devam ediyor.
You know, right after Dark Passage qualified for Worlds, our other teams want to compete for that spot in the future.
Like in the finals, 10,000 people in the stadium watched us playing.
I expect there will be much more competition in Turkish esports scene.
Türkiye'de keşfedilmemiş çok fazla oyuncu var. Fakat iş takım oyununa gelince
tecrübesiz kalıyorlar. Fakat Türkiye'de League of Legends çok hızlı bir şekilde gelişmeye başladı. Bu sorunun kısa bir sürede kalkacağını düşünüyorum.
We work really hard to go to the Worlds and we made it.
Dünya şampiyonasında olduğumuz için mutluyum. Umarım en iyi şekilde temsil edeceğiz Türkiye'yi. I think as a team we want all Turkish fans to support us because if they support us, we know we will do much better than our best.
The expectations for us is reasonable. They know how we play.
Aslında benim için çok takım fark etmiyor ama en iyiler gelirse
你们讲到一些关于土耳其的，土耳其这部戏是近期才开的。
And I think winning a 1 game or 2 game is really good and enough for Turkish community.
I'm from Norway. I don't speak any Turkish, but I'm starting to learn a few words. I think the Turkish community was a little bit skeptical about me in the beginning, but after Gamescom, they wrote to me, well played, so I think I'm accepted in the Turkish community now.
I think every team should take other teams seriously. We are not Team Mineski or we are not Gaming Gear. We are going Worlds to win.
I'm expecting a really good support from Turkish players and the fans, and whatever happens, if we lose or win, they will support us, I'm sure of that.
Such a passionate video as they come out of Turkey. These guys, their passion just shows right through with everything, and you can see why last year's upset was so big for them, for the Gamma Bears to come out strong. Now they get their chance. So let's get right into things with the action and the roster rundown. On the blue side, representing Turkey's Dark Passage. In the top lane, it's Fabulous. In the jungle is Crystal. Mid lane is Naru. The AD carry is Holy Phoenix, and he's supported by Touch.
And spawning on the red side are AHQ Esports Club. They are going to be a home favorite, that's for sure. From the Garena Premier League, of course. That is Pride's in the top lane, Naz in the jungle, Westor in the mid lane, finally made it into the World Championships. Garnet Devils, the AD carry, and Green Tea, his support.
And I really just can't wait to see these two teams playing on the world stage. Obviously, everyone has been saying they're completely outclassed in their group, but that's why we have to play the games. I want to see if one of these teams kind of blows us away with something a little bit interesting. They're both incredibly aggressive teams, and they both.
对，然后应该就做一些补充而已。
They are in the group with Samsung White and EDG. Yes. It is a gigantic uphill struggle for both of these teams, which actually is what makes this match more important.
It really does. If they drop a game to either of these teams, if they want any chance of going out of the group, Dark Passage either has to 2-0 AHQ or AHQ has to 2-0 Dark Passage for even the beginning of a chance.
They called it the David and Goliath, and right now we got the two Davids. They're going to go at it, see which one could beat a Goliath pretty much.
Throw stones at each other.
Get that momentum, exactly. So coming into this, like you guys said, strong individual play from both sides, and I think it's just going to be a massacre of a game because we obviously have Dark Passage coming out very strong, and AHQ on the other side tends to go a little bit longer because they focus team fights and not the objectives.
But both teams are not afraid to brawl. That is very much for sure. And, you know, we talk about the AD carriers. This is actually where the pick and bans, I think, may well focus. They're both very strong. Garnet Devil has got a 12-0 on Jinx.
Yeah.
But someone who's not afraid to play Jinx is Holy Phoenix, the main man. And then you look towards the mid lane, a lot of bans towards Fizz, maybe for Westor. Everybody remembers his Twisted Fate as well, of course. He was famed for that back in Season 1.
All right.
But Naru, on the other side, is a man that can play any champion, it seems. Let's see how this works out, ladies and gentlemen. Pick and bans underway for the third match.
我觉得应该剩下两个应该会留给中路啊，对 TF。
There are some strange
然后这边应该会再来背一个中路，我猜杰。
One thing about Westor is 79% of opponent bans in the GPL were actually targeted at him.
That's crazy.
Most of them on Fizz actually, who isn't banned this game.
菲斯这场是没有 ban， 蛮有趣的。
One thing I did like is the fact that the crowd immediately oohed the moment Twisted Fate was banned. They were like, "Oh, come on, we want to get to see Westor play it. It's not going to happen."
The plays.
Fabulous. Nidalee is available. It's a champion he can go with. Maokai also in there. It really depends on what Dark Passage want to throw at them.
对，因为他们土耳其就不知道他到底会选什么，就很想说茂凯啊什么的，瑟雷西啊，可是就觉得他们土耳其，说不定他们不太喜欢这些。秒锁了。
That is the main for Crystal. It's a lot of confidence locking in that Lee Sin with so much power up on the board. These teams have no interest in the Maokai pick, though, it seems.
比较稳的 pick.
Wow. Really interested in these early picking bands.
You know, I seem to recall they did a Lee Sin first pick against Legacy as well, and we were questioning it then. I mean, to first pick the jungler is a big deal, especially when there's so much on the table still.
Came out 3-0 there. And it's like Kha'Zix is still up. Kha'Zix is a great jungler. It's not like Lee Sin is the exclusive jungle now that's head and shoulders above others in power. It's just a confidence pick there for Crystal saying, yeah, we don't care, we can play anything, we can counter anything, and they want Lee Sin.
应该菲斯吧，菲斯配一个，可能我觉得可能会是卡雅或是露露，茂凯也可以，可是我比较不喜欢。
How they're going to round out the rest of this composition? The tree may get some playtime here, D-Man.
Yeah, it looks like Maokai being hovered over. I'm just looking towards Pride's actually. There is no Nidalee in his champion pool from the summer. So that's a possibility that Dark Passage are thinking we didn't need to lock that top laner in. We know he can't go with it. I think maybe they're actually trying to force out Maokai. I'm interested to see whether this actually gets locked in. Or whether they do go with this one, or they're just thinking, okay, they've shown us their hand in the bottom lane. We're not too interested in that. It's the mid lane they want to focus on.
The GPO was actually the first region I saw picking up Maokai after the rework, but it was as a jungler, surprisingly. Saigon Fantastic 5 picked him as jungle and often had a band against him. That was before he became a top laner at all. So, not that I expect a Maokai jungle in this game. They just don't really seem to care about him that much in the top lane.
A lot of focus as well with no mid laner being picked that they want to see if they can get any more out of Westor before they give Naru something to pick. He'll be picking his mid lane and one of the last from Holy Phoenix are touched, but AHQ now to answer that Maokai picked up with the Nami.
我Nidalee 上路
somewhere. That's what we were saying, and they are going to hover it outside AHQ.
It's boom. Such a powerful pick potential-wise.
就是让这个小风拿 Nidalee 上路，卡莉丝打野蛮有趣的。这样我就看不懂他们到底想要怎么打。Syndra， 哦。
Holy Phoenix got the pentakill in that final to get here from the international wildcard. Fantastic Tristana player. Very aggressive, I gotta add. Those rocket jumps are used to go in, not out.
A pretty squishy team being put together by HQ as well. If they pick Syndra, I mean, Westor's obviously set himself up for a counter pick in the mid lane. A lot of teams did this.
Fizz?
It's gotta be, 100%.
Yeah, thought something smelled.
You don't have that many bans against you without being good at it. The fact that the crowd instantly reacted, they knew what was coming. It's going to be a big question, and it is a problem for a Syndra player. You are fairly mobile, but you can land those long-range stuns. It's really down to Westor whether he can dodge them.
Oh, we saw.
我觉得是 Fizz 的话，上路就不该出Nidalee。
You're going to be canceling out that Syndra ultimate too, so Westor gets a nice pickup with that Fizz.
不过也是可以打了。
It's not like Garnet Devil plays all that much Twitch. He's still comfortable on Lucian, and now they have to deal with Westor's Fizz. I can't wait to see it.
It's going to be an amazing matchup. We're getting ready to jump into this one quite soon. You can see the teams hand out now on your screen.
Nidalee 虽然现在伤害很强，可是就有点不顺眼。
Cause problems, but they love to fight, so maybe they'll get there in early before Maokai even can be a tank.
Absolutely. We'll see how this one works out. Of course, the champions are locked in. Head over to Twitter and tell us which jungler you think will have the biggest impact in this game. Tweet your hashtags DPWin or hashtag AHQWin to @LOL Esports, and we'll check those out as the game gets underway. How is this going to work out? That is the question. We are champions in our own right there, apparently. But
it's about the mid lane in a big way here. As it
每个人都觉得是中路
HQ
战
games. A lot of the time, you almost want to call HQ Esports Club like Westor Esports Club, because that's pretty much every time you bring up HQ, it's like, oh yeah, it's Westor's team. You hardly ever remember Pride, Nas, Garnet Devil, or Green Team. It's just Westwood.
Hey, you got to go through the door if you're going to get somewhere. See how they go coming into this matchup. DP versus AHQ, and we are onto the river. Ladies and gentlemen, this has been an amazing start to Worlds already, and there is so much more to go.
We'll see how this one works out. Of course, AHQ, home favorites. They are on home turf. Not had to travel very far for this one, that's for sure. Just across town. And we'll see whether that gives them some bonus coming into this one. This is a game they absolutely will be looking for a victory in. And with the home crowd advantage, we'll see.
TP 这边完全是就是一字排开来的，就是很确定是没有想要打一等。
In Turkey for the last 2 years, dominant over there.
HQ 的话，这边看起来是要直冲对方的 buff 区，可是这边因为怕对方在这里有重脚植物，所以等了一下。
We'll see whether it times out before they come through though.
Yeah, it's going to be tricky. They're going.
Nope, it spots him.
哇，被看到了，尴尬。
Not going to happen. So they
什么都看到了。
Looks like they're going to stick to it. They don't mind.
Well.
Being fabulous. Throws another soccer ball into the brush. Looks like he keeps it in the rough, so they're going to be safe from that invade. But oh, the bushwhack possibly to be set up here in the top lane.
Wow. AHQ pulling out all the stops early on in the game. Prides could teleport down. They're really just trying to pull an early advantage.
已经知道对方要逆了，所以是 DP 这边主动逆。
They're in just totally the wrong spot. They have to abandon.
We'll see whether.
Oh, they're trying to.
Wow, 被看到。
They got spotted. Yeah, they got spotted. The question is, do they react? How do they perform? They're going to go straight for red. They want to get the red steal, so it's going to be a red and blue steal. The question is, when they come back, how do they cross?
Yeah, both teams were spotted, so they'd have the choice of if they want to try and catch a fight right here. What an interesting set of maneuvers right here. I think Holy Phoenix and Touch should just back away. And yeah, the craziness of swapping buffs right there, and I don't think really anything's going to come of it.
好，那到了一个冒凯都 TP.
Switching up the lanes, and everything's on the bottom side now. So top laners are going to be facing off against each other. A little bit of aggression towards the mid lane. Safety coming in from Nas. So Westdoor is not going to find too much pressure there, but he is not level 2 by any means right now. Whoa. And he is taking quite a bit of damage.
Wow. Early aggression from Naru there, using that ignite. Didn't see Westdoor panic too much though, held on to every summoners, didn't react too quickly to that one.
He started with the Crystalline Flask and a bunch of health potions. It's expected that Fizz will fall a little bit early to Syndra. It's the CS that we need to watch, and if there's actually a kill, because the harass is actually not that devastating for Westdoor.
And there's still kill potential on Westdoor, or for Westdoor, I should say now. His ignite is up, Naru's is down.
So let's go through what's happened in the jungle, because it's a double blue for Naz and a double red for Crystal. Who's going to have the advantage here? You got to feel that Naz on the Kazakhs, he wanted that double blue.
Yeah, it gives him more sustain options. He does still have a slow with his W. Lee Sin.
Yeah, double red works well for him as well.
It's all right. Like, it's actually okay for both of them. Great hook.
Didn't think that was going to land, but it does get touched right on the edge of his tail there. Nas getting seen out by a ward. Looks like he's just going back and forth, though, to make sure Crystal wasn't in the area. But guess what? He is. Could be very big as he's coming up around the backside. There's some bushwhacks in that trap, or in that burst. I wouldn't mark it there. No. Oh, whoop.
Oh, dear.
Well, he got rid of them all.
Hey, I told him not to do it.
At least he managed to clear him out. Fab Pavis doesn't have to worry about that any longer.
All right, smart play there by Pride, getting the forward, not even a ward, but just the brush control for himself. Nas now to go back down, knowing that Crystal maybe have backed off from that counter, from the gank, so he's going to get his try in.
He's happy to stick around. He knows he's there. Fab Fabulous playing this one safe. Still risking it. Now he's got Crystal coming back in. Let's see if he can bait this one out. He has just hit level 4.
So
Crystal comes around. I think they're going to go instead towards Price. They lock on towards him. Sapling will get the slowdown on him. Have they got enough damage? That is the question. Price flashes away.
Wow.
Now can they turn this back around? No. They are both very safe. Lack of damage on both sides.
Yeah, it really felt like Pride's was going to get away from that one clean, but Dark Passage had a lot of sticking power in that one, and Nas just could not retaliate very much damage there. Obviously, just the level 3 Kazakhs not having the red buff to help him out either definitely hurt them there.
Yeah, definitely a huge one with the red onto Crystal, forcing that
The
flash.
Q
There may be a
没有
return to lane there for Crystal sometime soon. Great play coming out all around, but again in the mid lane, we said it's a big focus. 39-28.
在这6等前辛朵拉其实应该还蛮好压制他的。
Forced to jump out, but he doesn't gain much ground. Green Tea was already on his heels. Garnet's not going to be able to make. Oh, bring it closer. The play is almost.
Wow.
Trying to go a little too deep, but it's so back and forth, and he finally gets out.
Yeah, they're willing to go in, but they just burned 2 flashes offensively. Obviously, every summoner spell in that lane was burned safe with heal on Garnet Devil. Aside from Westar and HQ, the other playmaker is definitely Green Tea, and we're seeing why right there. He's landing those hooks right seemingly through the minions.
Poor old Naz returning to that bottom lane. That's Ward still yet to time out, so again does get spotted. Prides though turning back around on Fabulous. Both sticking around in this lane for a very long time. Back in the mid lane. He's got the CS advantage building up over Westor. Went aggressive early, has got that ignite now back.
菲斯打辛岛拉好，就是第一
We'll see, of
可以直接
course,
左脚打
Westor
下去。
just biding his time. Needs to get to that level 6. It is about to strike, but Naru hits it first. We'll see whether he decides to go aggressive or maybe try and burn that ultimate before he hits it.
Yeah, Westor happy to stay. He goes for rings. He knows he can keep the lane going for a little bit longer.
Yeah, Naru has handled him pretty well so far. It's what's supposed to happen in a Cinder versus.
我不想听到我的声音，可以直接滚回去看原场的实况。
Close in CS, but this is kind of how you would expect the matchup to play out. And considering the hype that is behind Westor, I'd say very great job by Naru thus far.
Interesting to see the 2 AD carriers both having to go early, get the double pickaxes, or single pickaxe apiece, you know what I mean. Oh, Pride's getting caught out. Fabulous taking so low from this one, but has Crystal got the damage? No, Sonic Wave misses. Good dodge from Prides.
Prides might start taking over this lane now, too. You could see how quickly he was able to turn that around on Maokai, even though he had previously burned his flash. And that's going to be trouble there.
A bit of a play here. Nas just far off. He didn't want to get the leap in to get there, and it is going to take a little too long. Holy Phoenix actually dodges into everything. Oh, some trouble dodging the skill shots. First blood for AHQ.
And the teleport was burned and canceled there, which will delay the Maokai in the bottom lane. That is a 2-lane win for AHQ. Everyone but Westor actually stepping up.
Yeah, I think a little overconfidence. They were trying to bait out a little too much there. And instead, we're not expecting the damage turnaround to come out so heavily from AHQ. Westor now, can he start putting pressure on Naru? Will Naru have an answer for him if he does? Big difference. Holy Phoenix is the man that needs to carry for Dark Passage. I always feel that. You've got to look towards basically all of their matches back throughout the year. He is the main man. And if he can't get going, if he gets slowed down in any way, which clearly AHQ have already figured out, that's the man they need to focus on, it's going to cause them problems.
Green Tea is just locked in on his patterns as well. He has not been able to avoid those death sentences. Green Tea's percentage on those is through the roof right now. And it's just going to keep coming and coming until Holy Phoenix learns how to dodge them.
And we see how aggressive AHQ is. The flashes are back up, and they do it again. We were just mentioning that they had him down, and they might play passive. No way, Jose. Now coming in from the top side, Crystal looks to make a play as even more happens in mid. The Chum the Waters just misses, but back down to Pride. He's going to try to get away from Crystal and Fabulous.
He's a long way from home right now.
Yeah, he's not getting away from this one, I don't think. Unless he makes a miraculous run, it will be a kill, this time for Fabulous.
You can definitely see the focus right now. Dark Passage on the bottom lane, trying to get Fabulous into a point where he can neutralize Nidalee and then probably come in team fights. And obviously AHQ is focusing on the top lane to try and get that Garnet Devil going.
A nice bait as well. Fabulous, we saw him just go down almost to Pride's. And now Crystal is there every single time working that bait very nicely. So 1-to-1 on each side as both teams are making some great plays so far. And we even got a little bit of roam.